I'd like to call a governing board meeting to order for Liberty Elementary School District on April 29, 2024. The time is 5:30. We're here at the Jerry Roby facility. We have all 5 board members present. Vice President Parks, Board Member Kenyon, Board Member Bixler, and our newest board member, who I am going to have forever trouble saying your last name. We're going to call you Board Member Brian, but it's Cincioni. Help me out.
Cincioni.
I'll be. Now you understand why it's so hard for me to get that one. Okay, next item on agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, item 1.2, and we'll ask Board Member Cincioni if you could lead us, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which is one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, just for the record, too, we'll have Alina Lamb from Liberty Elementary. She's our student leader of the month. She'll be joining us on the dais as soon as she arrives. We'll move now to item 1.3, approve of the regular agenda.
President Todd, members of the board, I would ask and request that we pull items 4.10 and 5.6 to allow staff some more time to bring back to the board at the next board agenda. That'd be 4.10 and 5.6.
Okay, members, we're going to pull 4.10 and 5.6. Is there a motion and a second?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the agenda with the exception of 4.10 and 5.6.
Mr. President, should we call that the consent agenda?
We can do it.
No, I'm sorry. It would be the regular agenda. I'm sorry. You're right.
4.10 is part of the consent, but we can pull it now or we can pull it then. And 5.6 will be part of the regular agenda. I do have a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. When I call your name, please specify your vote. Vice President Parks.
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon.
Aye.
Board Member Bixler.
Aye.
Board Member Cincioni.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Will show that proof. 5 yes, 0 no. Next up is item 2.2, school newsletter, superintendent update. Dr. Monroe.
Point of order, Mr. President.
I think you skipped.
2.1.
Yeah.
I don't. Sorry. 2.1, most important of the night. Sorry. Introduction of new governing board member. Members, we have a new board member joining us tonight. He went through appointment process with Mr. Steve Watson, who is county school superintendent. Under state statute, Mr. Watson is the sole designee to appoint a member to the board. I would like to take this time to thank those who did go through the process, and I'd turn it over to Mr. Cincioni for a minute to introduce yourself.
Good evening. Like I said, my name is Brian Cincioni. Me and my family moved here about 3 years ago after I retired from 20 plus years active duty military. We moved here and I decided I needed to give back to the community a little more. This opportunity came around, interviewed, and I look forward and I'm honored to serve the students and the families and the staff of Liberty Elementary School District. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to our board. All right, now we'll move to item 2.2, school newsletters and superintendent update. Dr. Monroe.
President Todd, Vice President Parks, members of the board, in front of you on this item are the school newsletters for the month of May. We are there. It is the last month of school. There is a lot to celebrate with our students, but I will say our principals, our teachers, our students continue to be focused and work really hard. So I would ask the board to please watch your emails and your calendars for various invites of things that will be happening around the school. I'd also like to share in my superintendent update and report a few things to set the record straight in response to some public comments made at the last board meeting by Carrie Jones. First, the season of giving. I want the board to know that during the month of December last year, I was able to recognize various teachers and staff from each campus by providing them a lunch and wishing them a happy holiday season. It's challenging to buy lunch for 7 schools, a district office, and transportation department as an appreciation. And so I was very grateful that principals and directors chose various staff members from their schools and departments to receive that lunch that day in December. It took a moment of time around lunch as I enjoy when the teachers can come to the office briefly out of class, get called out of class to get their lunch, and hear just a few brief words of appreciation from me face to face. Generally, a picture is taken after this. Again, I was grateful to be able to do this small gesture for teachers at each of the 7 schools, the district office transportation during the holidays. Second, the teacher advisory group. Comments were made at the last board meeting regarding the teacher advisory group. Let me read to you the purpose of the teacher advisory group. This statement is read at the beginning of each teacher advisory group meeting. As the board is aware, there is no official approval, bargaining, voting process as part of the teacher advisory group, only discussion, listening, input, collaboration, and communication that is valued as part of the improvement process in Liberty. Here's the quote. The purpose of the Liberty Teacher Advisory Group is to elevate teacher voice, to provide the district with input from all stakeholders, increase overall communication, and work collaboratively to ensure the continued success of our students and staff. This is not a decision-making group. Lastly, with regards to comments made about Liberty Elementary School District sitting at more than 50 teacher resignations, unquote, and alleged far more job openings than last year, and an alleged low retention rate, I would like to set the record straight. The teacher retention rate, including terminated contracts last year, was 73%. This year, the retention rate is currently at 79%. What this means is that a higher percentage of people are returning to their jobs today in Liberty for the next school year than what occurred the last school year. In other words, this is a higher retention rate than last year. There are a lot of reasons why people choose to change employment. In the past, I would report, pre-COVID, typically, school districts in Arizona would experience a turnover rate of 10 to 15%. However, with this teacher shortage and since COVID, that number has ballooned astronomically in many districts the last 4 or 5 years. In Liberty, exit interviews are done for all employees leaving who are willing to give us feedback. Let me provide to the board some reasons that we know currently why people are leaving from the data that's been currently provided to us. There's 5 retirements. We'll celebrate them at the next board meeting. 6 individuals that were not renewed due to qualifications missed or even performance. 6 individuals relocating or moving homes. 10 individuals leaving due to family circumstances. 2 people leaving for religious reasons. And 3 individuals moving to other districts for higher salary opportunities, such as at a high school district. Sitting at more than 50 teacher resignations due to teachers being upset is simply not an accurate conclusion. There is an old saying that goes, you can have your own opinion, but you can't have your own facts. As you can see, the facts bear out a very different picture than what was portrayed at the last board meeting during public comment. And as evidenced by the many wonderful students and families that are here tonight, Liberty Elementary School District continues to see great student success as we move ahead into the future. And that's my report, President Todd.
Thank you, members. Any questions? Just like to say that it's very exciting that we have 79% retention rate. Is great time in Liberty to know that all those teachers are coming back, and we appreciate each and every one of them. I also wish those that are leaving the best of luck and nothing but good thoughts as they pursue other opportunities and careers. So we'll move now to item 2.3, Governing Board and Superintendent Recognitions. Dr. Monroe.
All right, in just a moment, President Todd, Vice President Parks, members of the board, I'm going to ask the board to come down in front of the dais. And first, we'll recognize our students with the math challenge. Our math challenge teams here in Liberty, they will be at the West Side Impact Regional Math Challenge being held on May 9th. That's coming up, but we wanted to recognize them for their excellence tonight. So I would ask the board to come down. I'd ask Mrs. Johnson, Mrs. Finn to also come up. Okay, so we are really proud of these students. I mean, you talk about the cream of the crop, really, these students. And Mrs. Johnson, did you want to come up as well? Oh, okay, watching, we'll see who was able to make it. And we're gonna call up the students, and then we'll take a picture with the students and with the board. We appreciate Mrs. Finn, Mrs. Johnson's time and helping to corral and lead and coach our students. This is a awesome challenge if you are privy and able to see how these students are able to work together. So when I call your name, students, if you come up to the front, you can start with President Todd and shake hands, and then just kind of stand to the side. We'll get a picture. So our third graders to be recognized. Come on up, Colton Kolopanis. Marie Hernandez. And Lincoln Claff, come on up from our third grade. Our fourth grade team, Addison Naminsky. And Jackson Burkett. Come on up, Jackson. Okay, our fifth grade team, congratulations to Aiden Zimmerman. Bryson Raby. Bryson's at a baseball game. And Ryan Stewart. Our sixth grade, congratulations to Eli Vidara. I love the matching t-shirts, unstoppable. I love it. Our seventh grade team, Amir Gadado. Ella Stewart. And Liam Perkins. And finally, our elder statesmen, our eighth grade team. Congratulations to Harrison Horn. Jared Herrera Porras. And Osvaldo Roman. Okay, so many you want to come over and we'll line up the students, get some pictures. These are our future bosses here. You know, I mean, like I said, these are cream of the crop mathematicians. They work great as a team. We're super proud of them repping Liberty. Make sure you coach us up how we need to be here.
One more big smile.
Okay, thank you, Math Challenge. You can have a seat. And hey, good luck on May the 9th. Okay, I'm going to hand the microphone over to President Todd so that we can recognize our students of the month. These are going to be our last students of the month for the school year. Unbelievable that we're a month away. So, President Todd.
I just want to welcome everybody, parents who are here tonight. We have a great opportunity that we started this year of recognizing each campus and a student of the month. These students really, that we're going to announce, really go above and beyond. It's not necessarily always just grades, but it's their culture, it's their community service, it's their leadership on the campuses. And this is a small sampling of what we have at the Liberty District. We've got some amazing students, and I know talking to the staff as they pick these students, it's always hard. So this is truly the top of the top. I wish we could do more, but honestly, at that point, we'd be recognizing almost every student in our district because we've got some great folks. So with that, I'll call each member up. If you'll come up, we have a certificate for you, and then at the end, we'll do another group photo. First from Blue Horizons is Amani Romero. From Estrella Mountain is Brenlin Painter. From Freedom Elementary, Jaylyn Isles. From Las Brisas Academy, Jaime Olivas. Might be a baseball player. From Liberty Elementary, we have two this month, Andrea Kenyon and Justin Oliver. From Rainbow Elementary, Javier Gomez Garcia. And from West Star Elementary, Melody Klein. So again, we're going to take a group photo, but you're looking at what this district represents. This is our future. These students go above and beyond, not once, not twice, but every day to be great citizens, be great students, and represent our district well. So I can say on behalf of the board, we're very honored to have these young folks stand before us and before you all. So one more real loud round of applause.
Okay, we have one more that I'll step forward and recognize. We started to do something new, this school year. Again, I'm completing my first year here, but, recognizing our student leaders is super important. And so we've had, since January, a student leader from each school sit on the dais with us and lead the beginning of the meeting and speak about their school. And we're about to hear Mrs. Murray give a brief presentation about Liberty Elementary. And so the student leader this month is from Liberty Elementary, and I'd like to read a little bit about her. We'll take a picture with her so you know how special she is. And then we're actually going to go back to the dais, and she's going to read a little statement about what she values or what she loves about Liberty. This is Alina Lamb. She's a 7th grader, okay, at Liberty Elementary School. Alina's outstanding in academics. Alina has outstanding character. She represents Liberty Pride, which stands for partnership, respect, integrity, determination, and excellence in all that she does. She's competitive while also being the ultimate team player in both school and extracurricular activities. She continues to impress her teachers and administration in all that she does. We are so proud to have Alina as a Liberty Eagle. Can we give her a round of applause? Get the mic again. So you want to open up your thing, go ahead and have a seat. Okay, so Mrs. Murray, if you want to come up to the mic, you'll be on deck, but I'd like to pass the microphone over to Alina so that she can read a little bit about Liberty Elementary School, and then that will be the recognition report, President Todd. So Alina.
Hello, my name is Alina Lamb. I'm a 7th grader here at Liberty and a part of its National Junior Honors Society and a student athlete. Liberty is an amazing school that I have come to love during my time here. I came to Liberty only 3 years ago when I was in the 5th grade. Though I may not have been here as long as others, I can surely say that the community, support, and motivation the school has given me is absolutely amazing. The teachers and staff have not only motivated and drove me to try my best, but also to be eager to grow. I never thought I would love school so much until I came here. I also never thought or imagined that I would love reading so much. I never knew how it could suck you in while learning until I got here. I've gained a lot, not only knowledge here, but a family. I truly love the community we have here at Liberty. The school has not only made learning more fun, but also easier to comprehend and understand the topics or standards being taught. I also love the sports community we have here at Liberty. So, all in all, I can truly say that Liberty has inspired me to be the best version of myself I can be. And this school and community is honestly like a second family to me.
After that, we could probably just adjourn the meeting because we got a tough act to follow. But thank you very much and welcome. We're so appreciative to have you as a student in our district. We're lucky to have you because you can go a lot of places. Your parents live close by, and so we're lucky to have you. So thank you so much. Okay, members, our next item on the agenda is 2.4, Liberty Elementary presentations. It's going to be Miss Holly Murray from Liberty Elementary.
Are we good? Okay. Dr. Monroe, President Todd, governing board members, thank you for the time this evening to share about our school year at Liberty Elementary School. It's always fun to share about our celebrations and brag about our students and teachers. Tonight, both myself and Miss Goodyear, our instructional coach, will be talking about the 23-24 school year. And we also have Amelie Van Osdell, one of our students, here to give an update on the county fair. Starting with highlights. In the fall, we received exciting news that our new letter grade for the school year was a B. We had moved up from a C. And it was fun to celebrate as a campus, our hard work come to fruition. In February, we attended our PLC summit with 3 of our school leaders, which helped us with some amazing professional development. And we refined some of our current practices when it came to collaboration, assessments, and data analysis. This year, we started our first agriculture club, which includes 3rd through 8th grade students, and we have 40 plus students in there with 2 very dedicated teachers. This opportunity expanded their knowledge of our signature program and allowed for additional care for our animals at school, our gardens, and our newest hydroponics and propagation projects. We continue to strive for high growth and proficiency in all areas, and we have seen our most successful Achieve 3000, and Dreambox data this year, including 10 students who have completed the program, mastering all kindergarten through algebra standards. Our preschool has been a huge highlight, with Miss Tara Cook and the preschool staff opening 2 additional classrooms throughout the year to meet the needs of our ever-growing enrollment. Tara will be sharing additional information in her preschool presentation shortly.
At Liberty, we offer a variety of extracurricular opportunities to our students, starting with all 4 seasons of sports. Our students really enjoyed having all 4 seasons reinstated this school year. Even as a small school, we have filled all of our teams with players and coaches each season. Thank you to our local voters for bringing back our full developmental sports programs. A new addition to our extracurricular this year is our choir for grades 5 through 8, which will be performing at the district transportation groundbreaking event. 2 very unique extracurricular experiences that are available to our students is Color Guard, which performed at the Festival of the Arts, and high school events. We also have our Ad Club. Our students also have the opportunity to be a part of Student Council and NJHS. These 2 clubs offer our campus a variety of events and opportunities, such as sponsoring dances and taking leadership roles at the different agricultural experiences at our Ag Showcase. Our Ag Showcase is always a highlight on our campus, and the PTO dessert auction is always fun. We've also had added to the auction of chicks and ducks this year, which we hatched and we raised. This auction is successful due to the hard work of the PTO and the baked goods donated by students, families, and our community members. We strive to build relationships with our families and community. This is done with a variety of engaging events, such as Love of Learning Curriculum Night, Carnival, Veterans Breakfast and Assembly, Winter Showcase, Family Dance, Ag Showcase, Movie Night, and Donuts with Grown-ups. We value providing a variety of experiences to our students outside of the classroom and have continued on with our signature field trips for 6th through 8th grade students. We worked hard to provide differentiated professional development on working Fridays for our teachers. We recently surveyed the staff, and we were excited to see overwhelmingly positive comments from our teachers about the professional development opportunities that we provided. Our signature program is very unique to our K through 8. We look at ways to integrate agriculture into the curriculum and the content, but also provide extracurricular experiences. Currently, our students care for our longtime residents, chickens, but we also have 2 new additions. We have chicks and ducks, which we hatched in our 5-6 science classroom. The Ag Club has 40 members strong. Students in grades pre-K through 8 are utilizing our garden beds, and we hosted our signature event. Liberty has a growing number of students who participate in 4-H and take their livestock animals to the county fair. Our partnership with Farm Bureau's Ag in the Classroom provides our students with age-appropriate experiences aligned to our science standards. Our next steps: working with Soil is Growing, our community partner, we would like to continue with the expansion of our hydroponics. We also would like to, while we have them in use, we want to keep working on updating our watering systems to allow water to be controlled at each garden bed. This will allow us to meet the water needs of the different crops and pollinators that we grow in the different garden beds in our different locations. We will continue to grow our Ag Club and increase campus opportunities. We are anticipating a new addition to the Ag experience, Trout in the Classroom, which will be monitored by our 5 and 6 science students and teacher. And I would now like to introduce Emily to give us a county fair update.
20 Liberty Elementary students bought and have raised animals for the last 6 to 10 months, depending on the species. The majority of these students are members of the Odyssey 4-H Club. Some have taken these animals across the state to other shows along the way, but the Maricopa County Fair is pinnacle show of the year. Our Liberty students were represented in 6 of the species at the county fair. Each animal was judged, and then each student was judged on how they showed their animals and on their knowledge about them before selling them at the auction on Saturday. Along the way, the students spend countless hours feeding their animals, learning how to take care of, groom, show, exercise, and work with them. They have to keep track of their expenses and earnings to put in record books that go to county fair, along with service projects and time spent learning about proper ways to take care of doctor their animals. We are so proud of these kids who represented Liberty well at the county fair. Pygmy Goats. Peyton Stickler placed 3rd in breed, 1st in showmanship. Dairy Cattle. Colin Tosh, reserve champion, Brown Swiss Heifer, 5th in showmanship. Beef Cattle. Bailey Aguirre, 6th in market, 6th in showmanship. Sheep. Paisley Campbell, 6th in market, 6th in showmanship. Goats. Halen Farr, blue ribbon in market and showmanship. Carlin Farr, blue ribbon in market and showmanship. Sonnen Farr, blue ribbon in market and showmanship. Harley Proctor, 6th in market, 10th in showmanship. Emily Van Osdell, 10th in market, 3rd place overall junior novice showman. Hallie John, 6th in market, 5th in showmanship. Audrey Crane, 3rd in market, 4th place overall junior novice showman. Hudson Anderson, 6th in market, 10th place overall junior novice showman. Carson Anderson, 7th in market, 5th place overall junior novice showman. Savannah Pawlowski, 8th in market, 7th in showmanship. Shyla Brown, 1st and 2nd in market, 5th in showmanship. Swine. Emma John, 1st in class, 5th in showmanship. Carly Brooks, grand champion market hog, champion junior showman. Allison Brooks, champion light cross bred, reserve champion junior showman. DM Williams, breeding show, 3rd in class, 5th in showmanship market show. 1st in class. 5th in showmanship, Sawyer Williams. Breeding show, 4th and 5th in class, 5th in showmanship market show. 4th in breed, 5th in breed, 6th in showmanship.
It was a very exciting year at the county fair for us, and Dr. Monroe and myself got to go, and President Todd also was able to go see the students show animals. So just an overall really nice celebration for their kind of culminating event. So we look forward to even seeing more of our students show next year as they meet that age requirement to be a part of that. Moving on to our school goals this year, we set some very high goals for our school, but we're always up for a challenge. We won't have finalized data until after our state testing results and our Acadian sweep later on, but I do have an update of where we are right now. So with our K2 data, this is based off of our mid-year sweep in December. That next data point will be actually on May 7th, so it's coming up soon. In kindergarten, we had 52% of our students at or above benchmark. First grade was 49%, and second was 39%. And we made some of those mid-year adjustments, which we shared in that presentation, I believe, in January. And we are excited to see what those results look like. They've been pretty promising in our progress monitoring data. In English language arts for 3rd through 8th grade, we've seen 158-point Lexile growth as a school average as of our last April 1st to date. In trimester 1 and 2, we saw reading literature standards at 39 and 45% proficiency, and reading for information standards at 46 and 34% proficiency. In both trimester 1 and trimester 2, our school average for our Illuminate scores were higher than our state average last year. In addition, we have an attendance goal, which was 92% in our updates from 2 weeks ago. Our attendance does dip in April due to the county fair, but we know how important it is. But we did have great attendance for state testing, so we're hoping that's back up and booming. But we have been very communicative this year with our families on attendance. We have sent videos, letters, made phone calls, set up meetings, provided incentives, and more. We're currently sitting at 91.15%. So we need a strong finish in May, and we'll be there at our 92%. Increasing our proficiency really starts with our youngest learners. So we're working hard to strengthen our kindergarten through 3rd grade pipeline. So students are at or above grade level before being sent on the following year. We've seen a huge success this year in some of our kindergarten writing, having students spend more time in fluency folders with grade level texts, and utilizing an all hands on deck approach when it comes to our reading groups. We've used our CHAMPS teachers, interventionists, our instructional coach, and our librarian to work with small targeted groups of students. Our 3rd through 6th grade teachers worked this year on vertical alignment in writing. They planned creative mystery scenes in the hallway to create high interest writing topics for students. And rubrics were created to build off of each grade level skill, and that helped the teachers collaborate so they would have a deep understanding of what each grade level is responsible for. This year, we worked on workstations in math as a way to help intervene and accelerate learning. They present as game-like activities so that the students enjoy them, and it also helps to build fluency and integrate previous standards in current learning. We are encouraging our targeted students to attend summer school for extra support. And we are also excited because we created an opportunity through the Project Momentum grant to host our very own Liberty Math Boot Camp in July. So we are targeting our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students to come back in July, about 3 weeks before the school year starts. And we have 3 teachers who will be working with students on essential standards for grade level proficiency in mathematics.
As we continue to work toward student proficiency, we will focus on our Tier 1 instruction, which will be supported by our collaborative teamwork. Writing is always an area where we can continue to push our students. So we will create common commitments to ensure that we are increasing in rigor and our expectations from one grade level to the next with creative writing opportunities and strong vertical teams. We will continue to be data-driven from whole school to the teacher level and then down to our student level. This will help us to identify enrichment and extension opportunities to meet the needs of all of our students. While focusing on proficiency, it is equally important to celebrate student and teacher growth and achievement. Both our staff and our students look forward to our trimester celebration assemblies.
So we have a couple collages here just to point out some of our celebrations from the school year. We have some sports, the Veterans Day Assembly, our Ag Club, students building greenhouses, Love of Learning Night. A new highlight we did this year was Lunch with Blue, where the Buckeye Police Department comes and they bring all their local officers and eat lunch with the kids. And that was a huge hit on our campus. They were celebrities. The kids were asking for autographs. It was awesome. We've also had a blast working in our gardens, enjoying the Buckeye baseball team coming over and volunteering, having our students show their animals at Ag Showcase, field trips, Student of the Month celebrations, and our winter music concert. Next steps. So we are already excited about planning for next year. The future is always in our forefront. We want to have a laser focus on our K-3 literacy and utilize some of those adjustments that I mentioned earlier to help start those from day 1 next year. Many of our teachers spoke highly about our site-based professional development, so we'd like to build off of what went well. We want to continue to elevate our campus leaders because this work takes a strong team. Planning with our teacher leaders and getting their insight and feedback is something we look forward to every year. We'll continue to create collaborative opportunities for our teachers with other sites. We always want to learn and grow from others, and we value all the hard work that all of our district schools are doing. After attending the PLC Summit in February, a few takeaways we had with our leadership team was to refine how we track data, how we catalog our collaborative meetings, and how we can be small and mighty with our vertical alignment. These will be topics we'll work on next year with our leadership team and over the summer. Any questions for us?
Vice President Parks.
I really don't have any questions. I think it was a great presentation. Thank you. I love to see the growth in your AG signature program. I mean, our signature programs are kind of what we're all about, and to watch that grow is really exciting. I'm really encouraged by the growth I'm seeing in the proficiency and the adjustments you're making, kind of, I call it on the fly, but you're making the necessary adjustments, and we're seeing that. So we're seeing the results of that. And I know I can speak for the rest of the board. We all encourage, and I use the word out of the box thinking, but it's kind of like, how do we get this done? You know, what's the plan? And, you know, that takes leadership. So thank you very much for leading that charge. Appreciate it. I like to see the attendance That's a big deal for us here. It's hard to teach when they're not in school. So to see those numbers, the absentee rate go down is a really good sign. So thank you for everything you're doing. The hard work is paying off.
Thank you.
Board Member Kenyon.
I pretty much echo almost everything he said. I had it written down. So, but Liberty's such a great campus. You guys do so much over there with your, like you said, your leadership is very good. Just knowing, even the teachers I've spoken with, they're like, it's just wonderful just to know a direction we're going all together as one. And that comes from good leadership. So thank you for that. And I echo, I love seeing the ag program grow. And I've actually been doing some kind of things behind the scenes, trying to push other ag companies our way and try to boost that as well. So we'll see what happens, but I'm very excited for this next year. Thank you.
Board Member Bixler.
Yes. Ms. Murray, would you mind going back to slide 2? A couple things I want to really take a look at. First of all, if you take a look at the 7th grade, they currently have a goal of 570. And these are Lexile scores, is that correct?
7th grade, 970. Is this?
I'm sorry, it is 970. I just can't read what I wrote here. But those are Lexile scores, correct? And so the goal is 970, and you're already at 966. That sounds like pretty close to me.
Yes.
Now, as good as that sounds, if you take a look at 8th grade, their goal was 1010, and they're at 1100. They've already exceeded the goal. And one more thing I'd just like to point out, if you take a real hard look at the 3rd grade, they made a 298-point increase in their Lexile score over this school year. That is huge. Well done. Well done. A couple more real quick things. Could you flesh out a little bit more about the trout in the classroom?
Absolutely. So this actually was an opportunity that was introduced to us by, I believe, the governing board and Dr. Monroe. Is it President Todd?
Yeah, actually, just to point record, Miss Donnie Bond, who's a member of our community, was at the state capitol and met them and brought it to me. We took it brought it to Dr. Monroe, who got it to you. So it's a community effort here.
Well, thank you for that. I did not know all those details. But so Miss Camp and I hopped on a call in February with Trout in the Classroom and thought, what an awesome opportunity for Liberty. It's actually already being implemented at Buckeye High School, which many of our students, especially our ag students, feed into for FFA. But in the fall, they will be dropping off to Liberty a 55-gallon tank with all the materials needed to keep it going. And they will also give us about 100 trout eggs. And it will be our job to raise these trout eggs from the eggs to the fingerling-sized trouts. And their goal is really to bring nature back to students. They talk about a book, which I have not read, but Nature Deficit Disorder, and how students in the last 20 years spend about half the amount of time outside that they did before. And so their goal is really to teach students about not only what they refer to as STREAM, which is science, tech, recreation, engineering, arts, and math, but just get kids connected to nature again. And so the students will, they'll work alongside Arizona Game and Fish Department on this. They'll have to understand the ecosystem, and they'll be the ones tracking the numbers, the survival rates, the size of the trout, the water quality. So they're going to measure the pH, the nitrates, ammonia, dissolved oxygen. And then at the end, these fish will be donated to a conservation that centers around nourishing captive wildlife, recovering from injury and illness. And it's already in 36 schools. I don't know what next year will look like. We're going to be one of them that will be awarded if it's all approved this evening. So we're excited about it.
There was a time when I was the voc ed director up at Prescott, And one of the things I got to do in that, one of the perks was I got to travel around and look at some of the voc ed programs throughout the state. And the most dynamic program I saw was a high school program that had a fish hatchery. And that's exactly what they did. They raised trout to fingerlings, and then they sold those and actually had a very sustainable program through the sale of these fingerling trout.
Yeah.
So, boy, I tell you what, this sounds like a really good idea to me. So I applaud the idea of going after it. This could really be something spectacular. So
Thank you.
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, community, for bringing this to Liberty's attention.
And just one last thing, just so I understood. You said that the math boot camp was third, fourth, fifth, and sixth?
Our current third, fourth, and fifth. So our students who will
Current-
be
so
going
to be-
into
okay,
fourth,
third, fourth, and
fifth, and sixth next year. Yes, we have invited all of our families for that, and we are excited about that opportunity for the kids. Just a little extra push in mathematics, and right before the school year starts.
Well, I like the idea of the naming, the marketing.
Yeah.
Anybody excited about going to boot camp?
I'm sure they are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keep up the good work. It's going good.
Board Member Cirincione.
Ms. Murray, I just want to say thank you for the presentation. It sounds like there's a lot of great things going on over there at Liberty. I was very impressed with what I heard, especially with the out-of-box thinking with the training or getting kids interested in learning. You say you guys like set up scenes in the hallway to help them for
Yes.
writing prompts?
Yeah, they did this year. One of our teachers who helped with that project this year, actually, they set up a mystery crime scene in the hallway and over a weekend. So when the kids came in, they had caution taped off like a corner in the hallway, and there were all sorts of different clues. And then I had recorded like a video of what I came in and witnessed in the morning. And, you know, they had all these like staff statements ready. And so the kids, you know, gather evidence and create their case. And it's, you know, to get them to enjoy the full writing process. And it was a hit. And so we'll definitely be doing that more often next year.
Thank you. I also just want to say thank you for the presentation, but again, slide 2 is already up there. The numbers there are very good.
Thank
And
you.
you and all of your students, your family, your staff should be proud of that. When you're that close to a goal, sometimes over, to Board Members Bixler's point, 966, that's real good. Keep up the good work. We're encouraged to see that. It's amazing that your numbers are doing that well, and yet you have the absenteeism issue for the county fair.
Yeah.
I don't want to make that a negative thing. The
Right.
county fair is as important to those students as a football game or a baseball game is to those athletes. So I'm kind of curious if there's a way we can show that just for our own record, your attendance. I don't think you should be penalized. That's the same thing as going to the Super Bowl or the Final Four. Kids are going to miss, students are going to miss. So I don't consider that a problem. But along those lines, it's great to see the new things that you have going. The Color Guard, I saw them at the Festival of the Arts. The Ag Club is fantastic. You're indeed right. I got to go to the State Fair, and you said I got to watch students perform or show. I just want to clarify what I saw was lightning bolts going all over the place as the kids were getting their animals ready and running over here and running over here. Brought me back to my days when my daughter was down at the county fair. And to the parents, kudos, because that is a rough several days. But they did great. And the thing is, they were so professional. When you saw our students, it was professionalism. It was like going to, a high-end livestock show or animal show. So they represented us so well. The Farm Bureau, and I know we've enjoyed that for a long time with their classroom partnerships, the Ag in the Classroom. I commend you for keeping that up and keeping those partnerships going. I know that's an effort, but in a positive way, so it's great. Super excited about the Trout in the Classroom program. I did want to thank Ms. Bond. She saw that when she was down at the Capitol, and they were doing a presentation down there on a wildlife type of day, or wild animal day, something. With animals, but immediately called us. So it's great for the community to see something that could benefit our district and think of us. There's so many places she could have thought or just ignored it and said, that doesn't fit into my life, but to grab that and move on. And then for your staff to grab it and run with it. I really thought when she brought this to me, I said, that's a great idea. It'll probably take us a couple years to get everything flushed out. And here we are a couple months later moving forward. So, it's just great to see the community involved in our district and participating with that. So with that, I think everything else is just, fantastic. And thank the Buckeye baseball team. I never can go without thanking baseball players, but for them coming to your school, helping out, that partnership with the high school and the big kids coming down to mentor and kind of be little heroes or mentors for the young guys is and gals is great. So with that, thank you. Most importantly, do you have any hard questions you want to ask your principal? This is the one chance you can ask her anything, put her on the spot. We can get a spotlight. Nothing? Did she tell us the truth on everything, or was there any things you want to correct? Okay, you're off the hook. All right. So far, I don't have one student leader who's taken me up on the hot seat offer, but next year we're going to build that in the curriculum principles, so be ready. All right, moving on, we'll move to item 2.6, the financial audit report. Dr. Monroe's going to present. Oh, did I miss two? Sorry, I've done this again. 2.5, preschool presentation, Ms. Tara Cook. Got my papers out of order.
Good evening, Dr. Monroe and President Todd and the governing board members. My name is Tara Cook, and I am here to talk about preschool. Over the last 9 months, all the exciting things that we've been doing. So the very first slide you see is just our staff and some of the different classrooms, and I'm going to go into that a little bit, and some cuties that are working hard in preschool. So some updates for our preschool is we currently have 5 licensed preschool classrooms. 3 are developmental and 2 of them are inclusion, and I'll go into what those different classrooms mean. We have an itinerant developmental preschool teacher who actually pushes into our inclusion classrooms to service students with IEPs instead of pulling them out. And then we are a DES approved childcare facility. It is up and running and we have families enrolled, and DES helps offer tuition assistance for families who may not be able to afford preschool. So it's really awesome that we're getting kids in that really need to be in preschool. The difference between classrooms. So our inclusion preschool classroom is where at least half of the students are non-disabled peers. So that means they're not on an IEP. They're typically developing and they are here for exposure to preschool. And then the other 50% in that classroom, they're on an IEP. It just depends on what their specially designed instruction looks like. If they need peer models for communication, if they're working on social emotional regulation. This classroom is typically more like our general education classroom. And then in our developmental preschool classrooms, every student in those classrooms is on an IEP. Typically, there's lower numbers in those classrooms, so we can really work with students who need more specially designed instruction. So inclusion in preschool, this is something that we really have been working on big time this year. And so we want students to be with their non-disabled peers as much as possible. And so we do a lot of communication amongst the teachers. We meet regularly for PLCs to talk about students who are ready to move over to inclusion and what does that look like. You know, we don't want to put a child in inclusion that may not be ready and they regress a little bit. So we start slow and have them go for maybe 15 minutes during a preferred time, gradually increasing to where we call parents and say, hey, they're doing great. We'd like to move them to our inclusion program. And then, sorry, I'm out of breath. We also added Quality First this year, and Quality First is a voluntary program. It's funded through First Things First. There are 2 assessments that we participated in, which is ECHRS. It's the Early Childhood Environmental Rating Scale. They come in and look at how is the classroom set up, how many materials are there for students. It's very rigorous, and it's pretty in-depth that they come and do these assessments. And the second one is called CLASS, and it is the classroom assessment scoring. And it's looking at like, how are we doing higher level thinking? How are we pushing kids to, problem solve, to work with peers? How is our sensitivity towards students? And then out of 5 stars, we get a rating. And so this was our first rating and we barely missed a 3. So we were a 2-star rated program, which isn't a bad thing. It just, we've got things to work on, which we are. We got incentive funds to help buy things for the classroom to kind of have more of those materials and to kind of build up the areas that we scored a little lower on. And then we also get 72 hours of coaching a year, which is really nice. Our Quality First coach, she comes in, she works in the classrooms. She does anything from transitions, difficult behaviors, anything that we need support with. And then we also have a SMART support consultant who is funded through, a mental health consultant funded through SMART support. She comes every Monday and she, same thing, she pushes into the classrooms and she supports teachers with any of those things that we may just need some of that additional support with. And then the last person is our child care health consultant. She is with Maricopa County Health. So as a licensed program, we do have different requirements that we have to follow, hand washing, sanitization. She comes in and just to make sure that we're doing everything safely and according to licensing. Our preschool program is play-based. It's developmentally appropriate. It's where students have an opportunity to be in the classroom, learning routines, learning teacher-directed tasks, but it's developmentally appropriate through play. And we do follow the Arizona Early Learning Standards, and then we assess using Teaching Strategies Gold. Something else that is a benefit that we have all of our staff enrolled in is the Arizona Workforce Registry. So this is an early childhood, it's Arizona's workforce registry. Everybody can sign up through it. There's professional development. It tracks hours. Preschool staff and anybody in preschool is required to have 18 hours of professional development a year. And so we found some really good professional development through this. And there's also scholarships for paraprofessionals to even further education too, which is really, really awesome. Arizona Steps. So this is something that we do with DES. It is a technical assistance for expulsion prevention. So we don't want to kick kids out of preschool. We want them to be here. We want to work with them. We want to build their skills so that way when they get to kindergarten, first grade, they have the skills that are necessary to be successful in school. And so we have this support where they will come in and actually work with teachers, work with parents, families on things that we can do to help prevent expulsion. And then next on one Friday a month, we are required to do child find every 45 days. And so when we say child find, it actually means screening. So if a parent has concerns and they call, we'll screen them. It is also the evaluation results, and the IEP. And so this is just a little graph to kind of show you throughout the year. We've actually had 118 evaluations, MET2s, and IEPs where we have grown every month. So that's something else too to think about with preschool is we are continuously enrolling students. Child find happens all year long. We don't cut the age that they can enroll off at 3. 3 at the beginning of August. They can be 3 and enroll throughout the year depending on their needs. And then this is something really exciting. So we had a little guy who was going to need to be put under to do a hearing exam. And so we recently purchased amazing equipment called a spot screener, which checks vision, and an OAE, which is very mildly invasive to check hearing. And the little guy that we tested was able to do it with us, and he did not need to go and be put under to do this test. And so you can see here in the picture, the camera with the eyes, it actually 4 or 5 seconds will read a child's eyes and let us know if there's any concerns. We've actually had parents go to the pediatric ophthalmologist and it was accurate. So pretty cool equipment that we have that it really helps us move along quicker. Our current enrollment right now is actually higher than this. But right now we have 129 preschool students enrolled, and that number is going to continue growing. We have child find on May 10th. We'll be enrolling more kiddos. But you can kind of tell in our developmental preschool classrooms, they have the lower numbers, where in the inclusion classrooms, we have the higher numbers because we want to give the students in developmental a little more teacher to student ratio support. And then this year we started a new process with kinder transition meetings. So all of our students who are enrolled on an IEP in preschool, they have to have a transitional kindergarten IEP meeting. And so we consult with the receiving team. We invited them, they came observed. We had psychologists come and do observations, related services. We had self-contained teachers, resource teachers, just to make sure that we're placing students appropriately based on their needs. And so we actually have 62 students transitioning to kindergarten this year, which is huge. And then for 24-25, we currently have 28 children on our wait list for the inclusion classrooms. And we have 11 of those students returning. And so we have 52 total spaces for tuition and DES students. And then for the students with an IEP, we'll be enrolling all year long. I think that is the end. Any questions?
Vice President Parks, any questions?
Well, I'd like to see what you're doing with the early preschool program. Where it's very proactive, in my opinion. One of the things that, it caught me a little off guard. 101 IEP students. That should make that should really make us sit up. That's a challenge. I don't care how you do it. That's a challenge. That's not. Look at the numbers and our trends. That keeps going up.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see, this isn't on you, but I'd like to see more general ed students in our program. I was actually reading an article the other day. It says only 3% of in Arizona the early pre-K or preschool are attending preschool. So you're looking at that going, and I know some of this cost and some of the other things, but I think it's so important. We need to really figure out how we're going to get the word out and make those resources available.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about the mental health consultant and their role?
Definitely. So her name is Megan, and she comes on Mondays and she spends 3 hours. She can do program support, so she can help with professional development. She can do classroom support. So if somebody needs help with, something specific in their classroom, it could be transitions, it could be circle time, it could be anything. She'll come in and actually model and work with that teacher to make sure that they're getting that support. Or she can even do student specific support. If they're not on an IEP and they're, maybe having some challenging behaviors in the classroom, she'll come in and work one-on-one with parent permission from that family to help that child be successful in the classroom.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Board Member Kenyon.
Thank you for all you're doing and your staff. You guys are doing an excellent job. There's definitely challenges ahead of you. I know to get that childcare license, licensing and be approved through DES and all that can be very challenging. So thank you all for working hard on that. And my question is, with the kids that we have in right now, how is the parent involvement?
We have parents that want to be involved. And so we've even talked about in the future, perhaps doing some parent classes, taking the 5 developmental areas, breaking them down every other month, and working with parents on things that they can do at home to work with their kids. So that's some ideas that we've had too. It's hard because when parents want to volunteer in the classroom, they have to go through all of the licensing requirements. So they have to get a TB test and they have to have the fingerprint clearance card. And so it just makes it a little bit of a hurdle. But every time we do community events, parent events, we've done gingerbread house parties. We did the trick or treat in October where the kids came through and families came. We have so many parents that come that we have to limit it. So the support is there. They want to be involved in their child's education. And so we're just trying to think of the next things that we can do to keep incorporating that.
Perfect. Yeah, because I encourage, keep thinking outside the box, like we say, about how we can get more and more parents involved. Whether we can try and simplify some way of just, I know we can't jump hurdles, but trying to make it easier for them to be involved in that. I think that goes a long way with these kiddos. If they're learning it at school, parents can do a lot with them at home.
Definitely.
So, thank you.
Board Member Bixler.
Yes, you used the term pushes in. I think I know what that means. Would you mind describing that to everybody else, what it pushing in is?
Definitely. So in kindergarten through 8th grade, resource teachers sometimes will pull kids out to go work on their minutes or work on whatever that specially designed instruction is for them. For preschool, our related services actually go into the classroom and find where they are in the classroom. So our speech pathologist may push in, find them in the dramatic play center, and work on specific sounds depending on what they're playing on. And research has shown that kids actually grow more in their skills if it's in their natural environment doing something that they enjoy. So that's what our itinerant does. She actually pushes into the classroom, and she'll either kind of specifically design little groups where, you know, she may have the 2 kids that are working on goals and bring peer models over to help support them, whether it be, it just depends on what the goals are.
Right. So it essentially is delivering the services within just the regular classroom.
Yes.
So it's very seamless.
Yes.
The
Yes.
idea. Right. Slide 5 talked about additional incentive monies and reimbursement enhancement through DES if we move from a 2-star to a 3. What if you went to 4 or 5? Is it even more than 3?
No, it decreases a little bit because you're showing, I know. You're showing that you don't need as much support being a 4 or 5-star rated.
Oh, so I don't want to say it's better being a 2 because you get more money. But,
I know. So it kind of worked out a little bit.
And just some understanding of state testing, the developmental classroom that we have, more than likely those are the kind of students that we will see on an alternative assessment as far as state testing, right? They would not normally take the normal state testing vehicles.
That's correct. Yeah.
They would have different IEP goals and they would be tested towards those IEP goals.
Definitely. Yes.
Right.
That's correct.
Great program.
Board Member Svenzioni.
I just want to say thank you. I don't have any questions this time, though.
So I would also echo what's been said previously. 101 IEP students, that I think made us all jump a little bit. That really tells us what's coming. What I think is great, or many things are great, having the preschool program, which we haven't always had, it gives us a real heads up of what's coming. Basically, we now know we got 101 IEP students coming our way, where if we didn't have this program, we'd be greeted with 101. Surprise, here we are. I know as we progress, our IEP programs are proving to be successful. We're seeing more and more kids move to the general ed stuff. So I'm excited that we're capturing them now. And hopefully your program is starting to start that IEP process earlier, which gives them more opportunity to get pushed into the general ed programs. It's great to see the program go. I know right now you're at a 2-star, and I kind of saw, it's like, ooh, we're a 2. I want to assure you, we know how hard this is. I remember when this program started, we started working with the state departments of getting certified. We actually had to go back and do a couple of things again. It is a tough process. I think a lot of people in the public just think, oh, it's preschool. How hard can this be? It's pretty hard. So with that, don't dwell on that. Look at the opportunity and turn that into a positive that you're a 2 and almost a 3, you said. So
Yeah.
we get some more money. We should be at a 3. Maybe the pressure's on a little bit moving forward. But we got full confidence that we'll get to there. And the staff has been great. It's really nice because we get some folks from outside of our district now that come to the preschool program, and then they find out how great this district is and they want to stay. So we're touching lives earlier than we were previously, and that's all because of the kindergarten, the preschool program. So thank you for that. Really encouraging report, and we'll look forward to seeing it back, and hopefully we'll see a 3-star, but that could take some time. So I don't want you to feel the pressure of 2 years. So it may not be next year. It may take a couple years, but just getting the program off the ground was probably the largest hurdle that you face. So if you've done that, the rest of this I think is well achievable, and I'm confident you have the support of this board to continue growing the program and being successful. So thank you. All right, now we're going to move to 2.6, the financial audit report for fiscal year 2022-2023. Dr. Monroe, will you introduce this for us?
Sure, President Todd, Vice President Parks, members of the board. Kristen, if you want to come up to the mic. Kristen Conway is an audit manager with Heinfield and Meach. She's going to provide a brief summary of our audit process. The board was provided the complete audit here a few weeks ago. Later on in the meeting, the board will be asked to not approve the audit, but to accept the audit. Okay, that's key term. And once the board chooses, if the board chooses to accept that audit, then we'll put all the results. Crystal will make sure everything is published on our webpage, so it's accessible to all the community and stakeholders. So, Kristen.
Dr. Monroe, President Todd, members of the board. My name is Kristen. I'm an audit manager with Heinfeld Meach, and thank you for having me here tonight to go over what we call our audit communication and governance. So this is just a brief summary. So we are the external auditors for the district. In FY23, that was our first year under the new contract. And we actually perform 3 audits for the district. We perform an audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, government auditing standards, and uniform guidance. And uniform guidance is the federal standards. So because the district receives more than $750,000 in federal aid, you undergo a separate audit to make sure you're in compliance with federal standards. And it's called a single audit. In addition to that, we also complete the Uniform System of Financial Records Compliance Questionnaire. So the USFR Compliance Questionnaire is issued by the Arizona Office of the Auditor General, and it has hundreds of questions and procedures that we're required to perform, and the district gets a yes, no, or NA. That's it. So even one instance will get them a no answer as we go through that.
And board members, just if you look at that acronym, superintendents like to joke around, it's USUFR. So we call it the USUFR.
Yes,
So
that's not an acronym I would use here, so he can. This is just a summary of all of the different reports that we issue to the communication to governance that we're going over. The annual comprehensive financial report, those are the financial statements for the district. The single audit reporting package is that federal compliance audit that I was mentioning, and then the USFR compliance questionnaire. This is just a brief overview of our timeline. So this year you can see the audit started and finished all from September to the end of February. So kind of a shortened timeline this year, but thanks to the finance department, we were able to get it all done. They were fantastic in getting us what we needed. So just a couple of required communications. So within the financial statements, there are several estimates. That's just something we're required to disclose. Also, we did not encounter any difficulties in conducting the audit, and we didn't have any disagreements with management. And then in addition, management provided all of the required representations to us, meaning they answered our questions, gave us all the information we were asking for. And then lastly, as the audit firm, we did comply with all independence requirements that we're required to comply with. For that annual comprehensive report, it's also known as the ACFR. What you care about here most likely is that very first bullet. That is the auditor's opinion, that unmodified opinion or a clean opinion. So that's the best that you can get. That's what you can find in those financial statements. I've highlighted some other areas that may be of interest, but you can see it's roughly a 120-page report. So I don't blame you if you haven't looked at all those pages. The auditor's opinion is 3 pages long. So quickest, shortest part there. Next is the single audit. So this contains the report on internal control over financial reporting. This is where we look at the district's internal controls and their processes in place. We also look at federal compliance. So we looked at 2 federal programs this year, your special education cluster and your education stabilization fund, or more likely you know it as ESSER funding. So we looked at how those monies were being spent. We looked at the grant agreements, those types of things. And we did not know any findings over the federal programs. However, we did note one weakness in internal control over expenditure cutoff. So some controls there. We essentially found some invoices that were in the wrong fiscal year. But something that's very easily corrected, and there's already a corrective action plan in place. This is that USFR compliance questionnaire. On the slide is just a small portion of the areas covered by that compliance questionnaire. I mentioned it's hundreds of questions and procedures. This is just a small snippet. So through the course of the audit, we did note minor items, but nothing that would be concerning. And lastly, there is a statutory deadline of March 31st, so we were happy to report that all of the reports made it. You saw they were issued February 27th, so everything met its statutory deadline. And then just my thanks to the finance department. They were fantastic to work with. This was my first year working on this audit, and so getting to meet that whole team, they were great. Like I said, it's a lot of information to pull for us. They were responsive and answered all of our questions. It was a pleasure being here this year. That's all I have. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Vice President Parks.
I did read the whole thing.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It's kind of right up my alley. You know, from the business world that I come from, and then looking at it, you know, because we do annual audits and financial reports all the time, and looking through it, it took me a little bit to kind of get through it because it is a little different. I think one of the things that I noticed that kind of caught me off guard was, you know, most companies do either cash or accrual basis, and we're kind of a hybrid in a lot of stuff, so it's hard to track, right? So man, you did a great job, because I got lost in a few of the pages. So anyway, I want to say you know, we got some work to do. You know, it's more of a probably on the budgeting side of things, but I'm glad that everybody on our team is keeping the books clean. So thank you.
Board Member Kenyon.
Just more of a comment. Thank you for doing what you're doing, giving us this presentation. It's good to see our district as being fiscally responsible. The stakeholders need to know that. We need to know that as a board. And as Board Member Park said, you know, we're working on the budget for next year and trying to get that all figured out. But we're very excited with the direction it's going. So thank you.
Board Member Bixler.
Yeah, I also had an opportunity to read through the report. Question I had about the report that was submitted for this particular agenda item. There were a number of items that indicated a no. For us, that means that's an area where we have an opportunity to improve. Is that correct?
I believe you're talking about the USFR compliance questionnaire.
Yeah, again, it was the information was with this agenda item, not the full report.
Is it one of the slides?
No, it wasn't on one of the slides. I'm sorry.
I think it is, which I think that's in the later action item, but I'm happy to answer the question. So we can only give a yes, no, or NA. And so anytime you see a no, it does mean that we did find something that was not in compliance with the requirements from the Arizona Office of the Auditor General.
The narrative did seem to show that it was fairly unimportant, but it was something that was noted.
Yes.
So again, my question is that for us a signal this is something we need to take a look at and an opportunity for improvement?
Potentially, yes. Sometimes it's a clerical mistake and it happens. We have a sixth sense as auditors. If we can pick it, we pick it. So sometimes it could be as simple as that. And sometimes if they're repetitive, it can be an indication that some training is needed. But remember, we're picking sometimes 5 transactions out of hundreds.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a limited number of things to look at that you're looking at. So, but even then, when you find 2 or 3 out of 10, you know, randomly selected, that is a bit of a flag.
It could be, yes. Sometimes they're specific to sites, things like that. If there's been turnover, that can be an indicator as well.
Great. Yeah, it gives us something we can do with this report in addition to the USFR one. So,
Board Member Cirincione, I know you've had lots of time to study this, so we'll allot 30 minutes for your questions.
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you for the presentation.
I as well have no questions. I was lucky enough to get this in email a little bit ahead of the rest of the board, so I took probably a few more days than Mr. Parks took to read it, but we do appreciate your time. And all in all, I think we're always going to find some things in there. That's your job to help us. I don't know that there's a lot of perfect scores, but the issues that I saw seem to be pretty minor. I think we're probably more of a just a allocation or something where they were able to correct it. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 2.7, salary study presentation, again by Heinfield Meach, just a different person from Heinfield and Meach, and Ms. Stephanie Mahorn will tee this up.
Gotta make sure I can see. There, I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to stand this way so I can make sure. Before Karen starts, and I'll let Karen introduce herself. She's Karen Smith from Heinz-Feld and Meach. I just want to start with a little background. So the philosophical shift, you may or may not know, HR in the past for our classified employees, no matter how many years you've had in the past, you've only gotten 3 years of credit. So we're trying to change that. So when you come in, you may have been a landscaper or a parapro. If you've had 10 years, you've only been placed the max 3 years. So that's a philosophical shift that we're trying to change in HR. That's something to consider. We're also trying to be competitive.
Dr. Mahar, can I get you to be in the microphone so those
Oh, you can't hear me.
watching
Yep.
us will,
Sorry. Okay.
that would be better. Thanks.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
much.
So we're also trying to be competitive with our surrounding districts. Karen's going to share some information because she gathered information, salaries, competitive rates from our surrounding districts. We're really trying to stay competitive. We're trying to recruit from districts and retain our staff once they get here. If our surrounding districts give 10 years credit and we only give 3, we're not going to be able to recruit and retain good people. Our student enrollment with growth, that's really important because as our enrollment grows, we can gather that money to make sure that we can pay for these additional employees and we can give the people on the steps that they really need. One-to-one file review, we are trying to set up a process for anyone that believes when they started on the incorrect step. We're trying to really have a process, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. You have the right to come in. We'll sit down. We'll look where you started, and it might be right, it might be wrong, but anyone that wants to come in and review that, we're going to allow them to. And as everybody knows, we're going to start with our classified employees. They're our lowest paid employees, so we think it's fair to start with our classified. As we identify funding sources, we're going to have to see where are we going to get money to start. We want to start in bands, but where can we gather that money for? We're going to bring to you phased recommendations brought back to the board for increases to market job positions. You're going to hear about that from Karen. And again, the file review cases brought back to the board incrementally for improvements. We know we won't have $500,000 to bring everybody up to the market, but we're going to start incrementally again with our classified employees.
Okay, good evening, members of the board. Thank you so much for having me here today. As mentioned, you've got the double H&M show this evening. So we started off with the audit, and I like to say I'm not an auditor. So Kristen, walk out of the room so they can talk to me now. I'm just kidding. No, so my role with Heinz-Feld Meach is I have the privilege of being on the consulting side of the house. So I get to go in and look at all types of challenges that school districts have, whether it's the no's on the USFR compliance questionnaire on how to provide training, to looking at how are you dedicating your resources when it comes to compensation. So as we look at what we're charged with looking at, a little bit about our firm, we are a consulting and an auditing firm. So I'm here with you on the consulting side of the house now. And the district had reached out because they want to ensure that they are in a competitive landscape. When we look at K-12 education across our state, we know that finances are limited. We have limited resources available to us. And when we look at how we spend our dollars, we spend upwards of 90% of our operating funds on people. So how are we dedicating those dollars? How can we leverage those dollars to really get the biggest bang for our buck? So we were asked to come in and take a look at all of those compensation priorities within the district and help the district identify what are those areas that surface to the top. In this case, surface to the top, meaning that it needs the most attention so that we can stay competitive and we can recruit the best and stay within the market. Being here in the West Valley, there's a lot of growth going on. We're recruiting young families, hearing from the preschool program, and we want to be able to have the best staff to be able to work with our families as we're in a growing community. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the project that we were asked to do, what we found, and what are some next steps for the district to consider. So before we get too far into the actual scope itself, it is important for the community, so our governing board members, our community members, our staff who are here, to just understand how the funding impacts all of this. So I mentioned earlier that about 90%, 85 to 90% of the district's operating fund is spent on people. So that is the salaries and compensation that we provide to our employees. So it's important to understand, well, what funding do we have to work with when it comes to looking at our compensation? And anybody who's been in K-12 in Arizona for more than a decade knows that we've had a lot of challenges when it comes to how we fund our education. In fact, that's not even the last decade, that'd be for the past 40 years as far as how the state funds education. This is an area that we don't like to write home about and brag about because we are at the bottom of the nation of the amount that our state funds on a per pupil basis. But interestingly enough, almost half of our general fund goes to K-12, which means our general fund is not as rich as what we see in other states. And there are a number of implications that have come along the road to us when we look at K-12 funding in Arizona. One being that for many years we were frozen in our per pupil funding, which impacts that ability to be able to dedicate more into our compensation. Because when we're funded on a per pupil basis, and over those years that we didn't receive as much funding, that basically left us stagnant in the amount of funding that we had. So back in 2016, so there was a lawsuit that was brought against the state because the state wasn't funding education in the way in which the voters had expected and the voters had directed the state to do so. So there was a lawsuit back in 2016 that was settled in what we refer to as Prop 123. Prop 123 was the settlement brought forth to the voters to say, look, we're never going to be able to recover all that we should have paid K-12. So this is a settlement that we're going to ask our voters to agree to. It says, okay, we're going to put the past behind us, and this is the funding that we're going to be able to provide to K-12. That funding provided for some additional resources to go into K-12, specifically through the State Land Trust Fund. You've probably seen some headlines within the last year because now our state legislature is grappling with that because some of those funding mechanisms are going to end here. It was a 10-year proposition. So come at the end of 2020, this next school year that we will be wrapping up, we'll be going into that phase out year starting in 2026. So that was an important milestone when it comes to K-12. Another milestone that comes to K-12 really gets to what Stephanie was referring to with our classified staff. Proposition 206 was passed a couple of years ago that increased minimum wage in our state. And that was a very important measurement for our workforce within the state of Arizona. But unfortunately, within our funding model, there wasn't any funding attached to that. So within the past several years since minimum wage has gone up, we've seen minimum wage go up by over 80% since Proposition 206 was passed. Meanwhile, there wasn't a dedicated funding source provided to not just K-12, but employers across the state to address those minimum wage issues. We have capital funding challenges. So for many years, we had capital reductions in our funding. And while the capital funding has been restored, it's been restored to a very low level. Thus, we are under another lawsuit with our state when it comes to K-12 funding and specifically how we're funding our capital needs. And I mention that while this presentation isn't about capital funding, when we have capital needs, oftentimes we have to redirect operating funding to address those capital needs. So it's important to understand that that's an impact when it comes to our funding model. We also had some initiatives that were supported along the way. You may recall also around 2016, 17, 18, there was a huge push from our staff across the state, our teaching staff, our classified staff, our administrative staff, to really address teacher pay. And Governor Ducey passed an initiative with the support of the legislature. He coined it 20 by 2020. I correct it because it was really fiscal year 2021 when the final 20% came into play. But I bring this up because it's also a bit of a tagline because everybody thought that, oh, teachers are going to get a 20% increase in funding. That's not the case. What was done was the state looked at what was the average teacher pay across the entire state back in 2017 and what would it cost to bring the entire state up to 20%. And then that funding was pushed through our per pupil funding for each individual school district to determine how those dollars would be spent. But it wasn't a one-for-one comparison. So it wasn't that, Liberty, your teachers are here and this is what it's going to cost to get your teachers up to 20% and be able to provide that funding to each individual school district. And then last, another funding impact that has a significant impact on the available resources is the concept of a maintenance and operation override. Liberty is very blessed to have the support of its community to support an override. And an override essentially says the community is going to pay additional property taxes to provide additional funding for our operations, maintenance and operations. So again, that's where we primarily pay for our salaries and benefits. And I point out that you do have the support of the community. The district is able to ask its community to provide an override of up to 15%, and the voters have supported an override of 10%. And I point that out because when we talk about the surrounding districts that we're able to gather data from, most of the other districts actually have a 15% override, which means that they have more funding to work with when it comes to compensation. So I point that out just as something to just know that when it comes to our budget, it's not always an apples to apples comparison with our surrounding districts. So a little bit about what our project entailed. So we looked at all of the employee groups across the district. We broke them into our 3 employee groups, our classified, certified administrators, and then we also looked at benefits across all of our employee groups. And when we looked at our different employee groups, we looked at a couple of different things. We looked at the work calendars. So for example, how many days do our classified staff work? Are they on a 12-month contract? Are they on a 10-month contract? We looked at the entry rate. So we looked at not just what's published from a recruitment perspective, but what are we actually paying our employees as well to compare that to our surrounding districts. We looked at other compensation models such as our performance pay, our classroom site fund dollars to see how are other districts dedicating those dollars. And then, as I mentioned, we looked at benefits. We looked at benefits not just for the cost that is costing the district to provide health insurance and other benefits to our employees, but what is that out-of-pocket cost for an employee to be able to provide coverage for their spouse, for their child, for their family. And I point out both of those because depending upon the richness of your insurance plan, you might have what's called a cheaper plan in the sense it doesn't cost as much to the district. So you might be able to put more into compensation, but then the co-pays might be more for an employee, or the coverage for family members might be more expensive. Or on the flip side, you may not have as much to be able to put in compensation that people see in their direct deposit, but they have a very rich health insurance plan. So it's important to understand both sides of that. So we looked at more of the dollars and cents as it relates to the benefits, as what is the district paying on behalf of its employees, and what do employees pay when they are electing coverage for family members, whether again it be spousal coverage, family coverage, child coverage, etc. So how we actually approach this is, as I said, we identified those different employee groups. We identified all the different compensation factors. So as I mentioned, that entry rate of pay, the number of work calendar days, the actual rate of pay, other compensation models that are available, such as performance pay, things such as that. We then looked at the comparison entities, and we really focused more on the size of the districts around us and that geographic area, because we know, again, in a very growing, rich community like the West Valley here, it's very easy for staff to move from one district to the next. I won't lie, I drove over from Gilbert. That drive, I don't think you're going to be stealing too many people from Gilbert at this time. So, but again, you've got a lot of growing communities right around you that you want to make sure you know what are some of the neighboring districts offering when they are recruiting staff, because it is very easy in an area like the West Valley for employees to go from one district to the next. So some general notes about how we gathered this information. So first and foremost, I'll point out that we asked districts to provide this data to us. So we are asking them to complete a compensation survey where we're saying, show us, basically fill this survey tool out and tell us how much is your actual average pay for your teachers? How much is your entry rate of pay for bus drivers? So we asked them to provide that information. And in many positions, you might have a very similar position like for like. I like to say a bus driver, although a job that takes a very special person to be able to drive a 7-ton vehicle with 65 kids behind them. But a bus driver is typically a bus driver from one district to the next. There could be different surrounding circumstances, as far as is there a monitor on that bus, things such as that. Similarly to a classroom teacher. We can say a classroom teacher job description is the same, but the working conditions might be different. Class sizes could be different, availability of resources, the age of the school you're in, things such as that. But we did ask districts to provide that information to us. Some of the areas that we might find even more detailed differentials is when we look at the job duties, because we asked districts to tell us, okay, for your school secretary, let's just say, for your school secretary, provide us this information. We didn't get a down into the weeds as far as what is that school secretary's responsibilities. We said, these are the key positions that we're looking for. But again, when we get onto a campus, even within a district, you could have some differences in responsibilities. So that's just something to keep in mind, that some job duties might look a little bit different. And when we gathered information, we asked, is that position from a classified perspective exempt versus non-exempt? Because that can help identify if positions truly are different jobs, but they might be called the same. Just like Kristen and I both work for an audit firm, but I'm not an auditor. So you could have different responsibilities as it relates to those positions. So which districts did we gather data from? So you can see here from the list, most of the big elementary school districts here on the west side were able to provide us data. Going up north to Alhambra, Avondale, Buckeye, Cartwright, Litchfield, Littleton, and Pendergast were all gracious to be able to provide us the information. And, just a huge shout out to school districts. We all know that we have our full-time jobs in our school districts, and to ask the districts to provide this information and for them to come through with providing that. It's not a quick survey that they fill out in about 10 minutes and send back to us. They have to go through each position, pull their positions and pay data, and we'll really be able to extract the information that we're looking for. And in response, we do share the raw data back with the school districts. So we feel like it's a good trade-off. You take the time to provide us this information so that we can use it in our evaluation, and we provide that information back to the districts. So what we found, so some of the highlights of the information that we wanted to provide for you is, again, some foundational information to understand when we're looking at positions and pay and we're looking at how much we're paying our employees. We have had in the last several years a lot of one-time pay that's gone into our employee compensation. Kristen mentioned when she was talking about the audit that one of the major federal programs we've been looking at is ESSER funding. ESSER funding is coming to a close. ESSER funding, our final installment of our ESSER dollars expires this September. And I included this in the study because I thought it was important to understand what other districts were doing with some of those dollars, because I want to call it a total funding cliff, but because we knew the cliff was coming, but with this money going away, this very well could shift how districts are dedicating their remaining dollars, their maintenance and operation dollars, whether or not they will look to start to backfill some of these one-time stipends, or were they truly one-time and that they will go away, which would have an impact on the competitiveness of the district. So just more for informational purposes that you can see how other districts spent some of those dollars. Again, we have it listed by our classified staff, by our certified staff, and then finally with our administrators, our administrative staff, and how the districts did spend some of those one-time dollars. The next area that we looked at, particularly for our classified staff, was in the area of work calendars. And work calendars are basically the number of days that we're asking our classified staff to work with us. And we point this out for our classified staff that there were a handful of positions that would show that they had a different number of days that they could work to essentially earn compensation. As a classified employee, you're not under a contract in the sense of that you are paid on an exempt status. If you work, you're paid. So that's what a non-exempt employee is under the Fair Labor Standards Act. So I point this out because in some ways that might be that if you have fewer days, that might be a great recruiting tool, because you might have somebody who has young children who want to be on the same schedule as their child. Or it might not be a recruiting tool because you have somebody who wants to work more days because they want to be able to earn more compensation. So it's just more information to be able to help us as we are evaluating what our district resources and how we're going to dedicate those dollars. Then when we got into our actual pay, as I mentioned before, we looked at both the published schedule. So what are we posting when we have a position that's available? And Stephanie and her team are recruiting for that position. What's that published schedule? But then also, what are we actually paying our employees? And as Stephanie mentioned, the classified staff being the first priority as to where the district is looking to dedicate resources, the data we collected demonstrated that the majority of the district's classified staff, 80% of the classified staff, are being paid less than what the actual pay is in your comparison districts. So we saw that definitely classified staff, and primarily probably because of the placement, that where you're only providing 3 years worth of experience when somebody comes in, if they can get 10 years of experience in a neighboring school district, they're going to be more competitive for that actual pay. So classified staff, we definitely saw that of the positions that we gathered information on, 40 of those positions were paid less than the actual average in the comparison districts. With our certified staff, so we had two schedules of certified staff. We had our classroom teachers, and then we had what we refer to as our certified other. Your certified other are going to be a lot of your related service providers, your OT, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech language pathologists, psychologists, groups like that provide additional services, but are also certified through the Department of Education. That would also include academic interventionists, positions such as that. So we found with our certified position is that our teaching staff, the district has kept up with its comparisons. It's kept up with the peers. And some of that stems back to the governor's initiative to really try to push more money into our teacher pay. So districts have gotten a little bit closer aligned there. And you'll see with our other certified staff that we were above the average when we looked at our posted schedule, but then when we saw where people were actually being paid, it was not as aligned to the comparison districts. And in our admin positions, so first we wanted to make sure that we were looking at similar positions. So again, because we can call things some different creative titles. I always like to use the example of John Barrissey out on Scottsdale many years ago, where he had the director of first impressions as the district's receptionist, the director of student learners was the director of transportation. We wanted to make sure that we were matching up some of those different administrative positions, because while in our other positions, we might have multiple people filling those jobs. Custodians, you have a lot of custodians. Bus drivers, you have a lot of bus drivers. Even when it comes to our classroom teachers, obviously we have a lot of first grade teachers, second grade teachers, but in our administrative positions, it's usually you have one here and you have one in each district. So we wanted to make sure that we were matching up those positions. And we found that for all of the positions we asked for, all of the other school districts had all of those positions with the exception of one, so we didn't have a comparison for that. And we found that a handful of these positions were actually being paid less than the actual average in the comparison districts by a rate of at least 10%, and in some cases much more than that. So those would be some of our priorities for the district to look at. We also looked at the years of experience that are credited at higher. And I point this out more so on the certified staff, because last year the district did a concerted effort to increase those years of experience that are provided to our certified staff to bring up the maximum years credited to 15 years. And that actually helps the district because we have a funding mechanism within our state called TEI, Teacher Experience Index, that allows for the school district to essentially get a bump in that per pupil funding if your average years of experience for your teaching staff is greater than the state average years of experience. So every year, every school district in the state provides a report back to the Department of Education that says this is how many years our teachers have. And it could be credited years. So at the time of hire, they worked for 7 years at school district A. They've come to our school district and they've worked for 13 years. Let's just use as an example, or excuse me, a total of 13 years. So 5 years with us, 7, 8 years with another school district. We're able to take all of those years if we credited them at the time of hire with those years of experience. So the thought process is a more experienced teacher is going to cost the district more because we're paying them a greater salary for that. And with the TEI calculation, we can basically get credit for up to 15 years. So right now, our state average is just under 9.5 years of teaching experience. So in years in which our experience of our teaching staff is greater than 9.5 years, we'll get a little bit additional funding for that. That model does not exist for our administrative staff and our classified staff from a sense of additional funding being provided by the state. But from a recruitment perspective, it'll do well to be able to provide those years of experience for your classified and administrative staff. Classroom Site Fund is another important, very personal side of pay because it addresses our teacher pay. A portion of base pay is funded out of Classroom Site Fund, as is performance pay. And what we asked for our surrounding school districts is to identify how much of that Classroom Site Fund monies that we receive. You may have heard it referred to before as Prop 301. So that's the funding source that we're referring to here. How much of that funding is being spent towards teacher base pay as part of their biweekly pay that they're receiving, and how much is connected to performance measures that there's, whether it be their individual evaluation, their school level academic performance, their classroom level academic performance, and all the other components that would be in that performance pay model. So you can see how districts around the district here are dedicating those dollars. And then finally, as I mentioned, benefits. So here what you'll see on the benefit schedule is we looked at what are the average costs to the comparison districts as far as the cost that the employer is paying on behalf of the employee, as well as what is that cost for the employee to provide additional coverage should they elect to do so. And again, here you can see here on the chart that in some cases, the district is paying more than what its comparison districts are providing, which would then ask us to look at then a little bit further. What is that actual model? What does that benefit plan consist of? How much is the out-of-pocket cost to employee? How much does it cost to provide coverage to family members? So then when you look at the annual cost to the employee down below, you can see that it doesn't cost our employees as much to provide coverage. And depending upon the size of the employee's family, that could be a huge recruitment tool that we're able to provide additional coverage to their family members for that benefit. So with that, as we look at some of our next steps, so as Stephanie mentioned, the next steps that the district will be looking at is that multi-phased approach. Start looking at if we want to bring ourselves up to the average, and the average is going to be a moving target as we continue to look at compensation for our employees, as we look at the resources that we have, how are we going to prioritize those dollars? When we look at what is the cost to bring certain employee groups up, what's the cost going to be? Where are those dollars going to come from? What are we going to repurpose when it comes to the resources provided by our state legislature? Reevaluating where employees were placed at the time that they were hired. Do we need to look at 3 years versus 5 years versus 7 years versus 10 years? Really looking at that initial placement, and is it going to cost us X, Y, or Z in order to bring those employees up? And really that's going to take an evaluation of each individual employee's file to really see what that's going to look like. And then of course, updating the salary ranges so that we can be ahead of that average. We want to be ahead of the curve because we want to be able to recruit the best and the brightest for our school district. So I will offer anything that you want to add to that, or any questions that the governing board might have. Dr. Monroe, anything that I left out from our conversations that you wanted to point out from the data that we were able to collect?
Thanks, Karen, for a presentation. This is a very exciting project, and I think what the board will enjoy as we move into the future is now we have data. Now we have data where we know we can target our increases and where we can look at our employee groups to try to get them to the market so that we can attract and retain. There might be some areas where we even pay people above the market because that's a higher sought position. But what I really like about the salary study is now we have a very accurate picture where as we identify pockets of money through efficiencies or growth, this is why I'm always about growing, because this gives us money for programs and salaries that Dr. Mahorn and we can continue to work with Karen to bring forward to the board and say, what are the board's priorities? The reason you heard classified first is that's kind of what I've heard from the board is really addressing classified, where we can say, hey, we've identified $80,000. We recommend to the board attacking these employee groups A, B, C, D, and E with some of these file fixes and getting these people up to the market. So I think this gives us a roadmap, and as opposed to closing our eyes and just throwing darts at a dartboard, this actually gives us a good roadmap of how we can target our raises for our employee groups so that we're not losing to our competitors. So very good presentation, very thorough. Dr. Mahorn, did you want to say something here at the end?
I think you really summed it up well. This is a roadmap. We're working in HR and setting up a system so that any employee, especially our classified, because we know that's where we want to start, having them fill out a form or setting up meetings so they can come in and say, this is where I started, this is where I think I should start, and looking and going over those files and having a conversation with anybody that wants to come in and really digging down deep to see where they are. And they may be correct, they may not to, but really having that one-on-one personal conversation with each employee that wants to, and being fair to them and say, let's look and let's talk about this.
Vice President Parks, any questions?
Not necessarily a question. Well, I do have a question. I'm assuming our latest budget adjustments haven't been included in this because that just happened. So I'm actually encouraged, and the reason is because this board's been very aggressive in the certified staff area over the last couple of years. We knew we weren't meeting the level, so we've been working as hard as we can. That's always been our primary budget consideration. This last budget, we focused on some of the special ed areas we knew we were under. So I'm sitting here smiling while you're doing that because, you know, even though we didn't have a roadmap, we kind of knew where we needed to go. And I commend the board and I commend the administration for the guidance and the help on that because, you know, we want to be competitive, but we need to take care of everybody. And that's this. I'll speak for the board. I think that's our primary objective here. So thank you.
Vice President, or I'm sorry, Board Member Kenyon.
I don't really have any questions right now, other than speaking about the staff being able to come in and just kind of sit down with HR and say, hey, you know, what does that look like? How have you let the staff know that that's available to them?
We are still working on a process, a solid process, and then we will communicate to all staff. All staff, even though we want to prioritize our classified, we're still going to open it up to any staff, no matter what their group is, and have that one-on-one conversation, and no matter what their classification is. We want to make sure we hear anybody that wants to come in.
Thank you, because I think that's, you know, imperative that the staff in our district and those looking at our district thinking, hey, maybe I want to go work there,
Exactly.
have that opportunity.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Board Member Bixler.
Yeah, I do have a couple questions. The one of the things that we have done as a board is we had extended out our salary schedule from 10 years to 15. So we actually have steps that go beyond 10, which is a good thing. But you're saying that there's some discrepancies caused by the starting point on hire. It was my impression as a teacher in Arizona that Arizona only gave a specific number of years, and that was statewide. Has it now changed? Is it possible to actually bring in somebody at a step different than somebody else?
Absolutely. Well, as far as experience, there's no state requirement to give any credit upon hire. So there's no state requirement. You could hire somebody with 15 years and say you're starting at placement 0. That's up to each individual school district. You are at a funding advantage if you give those 15 years of experience, because then your average teaching experience will be higher, because statewide it'll be reported higher as well. Because if we're giving 0, we're reporting that teacher has 0 years of experience. So that would overall bring down the state average, but also bring down the district average. And one teacher across all of the teachers across the state would not have as much of an impact on the statewide average as it would on your own district experience. So you definitely, from a recruitment and a retention perspective, want to be able to provide those years of experience. The state funding taps off that TEI factor, stops at 15 years. So if a teacher comes in with 20 years of experience, we can give them 20 years of experience, but we would only get credit through the TEI formula for 15 years.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little bit different, because I know when you move from district to district in the past, in the old world, you only got 3 years. And even if you were a 10-year teacher, you only got 3 years if you moved to a district, which was a disincentive to move.
Yes, more and more districts are bringing that up to the 15 to get the most that they can out of the TEI.
Right.
So, and models are very different from district to district as far as what that placement looks like. Is it your traditional lanes and columns, or is it a placement schedule? There's a lot of different ways that districts tackle that.
So when we look at getting to an even playing field, we're not only looking at getting our salary schedule up to what the average is, but we're also looking at getting everybody to approximately the same starting point.
Yes, because exactly, you want not just your published schedule, but where you're actually paying people. So you want to be able to recruit. So, because if I'm a teacher, I'm like, where do I want to go look? I'm going to scope out the websites. I'm going to look to see what is it that you have as a published schedule. But then I also want to know, what am I actually going to get placed at if I was to take a job with the district?
Right. And we wouldn't know exactly what that financial impact is until we go to each individual.
Exactly, because we can look at where people are placed right now. I can say that Karen's placed here, Stephanie's placed here, each person's placed here, but I don't know what their experience is without getting into the files and actually looking at that.
Right.
Yeah, remember Bixler,
Wow.
teachers really control the market now. So just a little perspective. So when I started my first year, I had taught prior to coming to Arizona, but in 99, when I taught my first year here in Arizona, you wanted to try to make sure that you found a district you liked because you would only get 3 years of experience. Okay.
Yeah, when I moved from the Phoenix Union District to the
Yes.
Presby District, I
And-
only brought 3 years with me.
And that issue is that is a very antiquated issue. The gloves have come off. We have a teacher shortage, and so you have a lot of districts that have changed their practices drastically in the last 10 or 15 years. When I came here a year ago, and when I was made to understand that we only gave 3 years of experience, I thought, wow, we're losing the battle before we've even started.
Right.
Why would anybody want to work here if they have 7 years experience and we're only going to give them 3? And so, and now after COVID, with the teacher shortage, districts are being very innovative and creative on how they're paying teachers and staff, and people can drive that. Now we're all trying to fight over a smaller group of people that love kids and are dedicated to education. So the market has really flipped, and this data really helps us to make some really good decisions. I'm excited about a process. Our HR is small but mighty, but I'm excited about an employee saying, hey, yeah, I'm going to raise my hand. I think I may have been shorted some years of experience. I've been working here 8 years. Well, come in and let's meet, and we'll treat all the employees the same. Now it's on me as the superintendent to try to find those funding sources so that we can make all employees right. But yeah, make no mistake about it. The landscape has changed drastically as we're all competing for the same teachers, the same people.
Interesting.
Board Member Cirincione.
No real questions. I also want to thank you. There's a lot of data for us to go through in there, and you presented us with a lot. So thank you.
I would like to commend the district staff for moving forward with this. To my knowledge, this is the first time we've really done a third-party search or research on this salary study, and I think that's important to have it third-party, have it outside, and be presented to us by a third-party group. That really gives us some, as you said, Dr. Monroe, some true data that we can come back on and look for future planning. I would encourage the board to start looking at this quickly and not wait till budget season, because as we know, budget season comes upon us really quickly. We're just really a couple months away from starting to talk about it again. So I think we need to prioritize this and start looking in. I do have a question, and I'm probably going to put you on the spot a little bit, Karen, and I'm just curious. Some districts, and I think this plays into this a little bit, got desegregation funding and still do. And so as I look really quick, I just pulled it up. These numbers are a little dated now, years, but not so long ago, Phoenix Union High School District, 23% of their budget came from desegregation funding, which we've never gotten in this district. So that's essentially 23% more money than they can afford. Buckeye Union, a few years ago, 1.6 million. That's got to have an impact on what we can pay versus what they can pay. And a quick Google search talks about all this money is not really being spent on desegregation issues. It's being spent all over the place. So that automatically puts our district a little bit behind the 8 ball. That, again, nothing we can do but deal with folks on the Hill.
Not only the maintenance operation override, capital override, DSEG funding, absolutely. DSEG, yeah, that's a huge chunk of change. That if you're looking at a number since 2009, it's still the same number because they had a hard freeze for the funding, but they continue to receive that funding and that same dollar amount since 2009. And some of those school districts have been receiving DSEG money since the 60s, but it's not going away. So it's shifted. It's shifted to a property tax base as far as the way that the monies are being levied through a secondary property tax. But as far as the dollars that you're looking at, the percentage might be a little bit different if the district has grown. For example, Maricopa down in Pinal County, they receive some DSEG dollars, but they're a growing district. So that percentage might be shifting, but it's still a significant amount of funding that's being spent on operations.
Right.
So
and my understanding that that's a tax that's levied that the voter has no say over.
That's correct.
That's just passed. Congratulations. You live in our district, you're going to pay more.
Yes.
Looking at some of these numbers, Agua Fria Union, basically $1 million. Wilson Elementary, although not in your study, they're not too far away. They could attract teachers and staff to go work and for extra money. 1.9 million. Flagstaff, they're a couple million. Cartwright School District, 4.6 million. That's extra money that's coming in. Those are basically almost a little mini override or a little mini bond right in the way. So I think it's important for our teachers to understand that, but also our taxpayers, when we see we're below, we're doing our very best to manage this. But at the end of the day, we're much like a person that's on a Social Security. We get what's given to us. We don't have a lot of say. We do go out and beg for an override. We beg for bonds, and we've gotten to that point. It's a beg. It's tough, and as the economy goes up, it's harder to stomach additional pay raises. I think a lot of people vote no, not because they don't want to support it, but because they just simply can't afford to. And when you see these numbers, but Tucson Unified, a little far away, $63 million they get. That's almost twice as much as our budget that they're getting in free funding, because they had some problems back in the 60s.
There are some DSEG orders that are still a little bit challenging, TUSD being one. Just recently got out of the reauthorization from the courts, in the sense that the courts were going to impose further sanctions if they didn't meet their DSEG orders.
Right.
So they still have the requirements of the original desegregation order that was filed with the Office of Civil Rights, whichever date that was. I know Tempe Elementary was back in the 60s. So they stem back for a long time as far as where and when and why those dollars came about. And Mesa Unified has a small portion of dollars that are required to be spent on their ELL program.
Right.
But again, if they are spending their DSEG dollars there, then they're freeing up other dollars to be able to be spent in other operating needs.
That's what all the research shows. You're putting this into general classrooms under desegregation, and you talk about Phoenix Elementary, 11 million, Roosevelt, 13 million, Tempe Elementary, 14 million. Those are extra dollars that really put us. I would tend to believe if we cut that money out, we'd probably be one of the highest paid districts in the area, or at least far more competitive, because we're managing our money and not living within a bubble of extra taxes that the taxpayer has no say over. So thank you. Any other questions, members? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up will be item 3.1, Governing Board Update, Vice President Parks.
Thank you, President Todd. I got the opportunity to visit Westar and Rainbow. It was a school tour, and I just want to preface by saying, as a board member, it's probably one of the most insightful, exciting things that I do. You actually get to see what's happening in the classroom, and sitting up here on the dais, a lot of times you're kind of, I'll use the word segregated from what's really going on in the classroom. And I really enjoyed this year. We've done so many tours of schools. Gives you a really unique insight of what's going on in the different schools. And I have to say, I'm impressed every time I go. We got to, I'll keep it short and simple. Westar, and was watching all of their different programs, and they've implemented a whole bunch of kinesthetic learning into their programs, which is so important because all kids learn through kinesthetic learning. At Rainbow, one of the things that really caught me, they were working on, through civics, they were deep dive into the legal system. And, it was interesting watching the kids use that for their writing assignments. And, they had to watch a play and then come up with, for example, how the defendant was feeling as the jury went into deliberation. And it's going to be interesting. I had a thought, because it was like, I'd like to see what the result is and what the positions of the children are, whether he was guilty or innocent based on their perception of where he was. So it was an interesting, because I think that just that whole creative writing process is so developmental for these kids. So I'm, like I said, I can't stress it enough. I'm so excited when I get to go to the schools, and I thank the principals and the staff for allowing us there. Thank you.
Board Member Kenyon.
I got to do a couple of things over this last couple of weeks. Over at Liberty, I got to attend their National Junior Honor Society induction. Very proud that one of my daughters was inducted, and another one of my daughters is already in it. And so that was a very good ceremony. I loved it. I love seeing. It was very interesting, actually, and I'd like to see how the other campuses are with their NJHS, but we had a lot of older siblings who are already in there and a lot of young siblings coming into it. And it was very interesting to see, that how that was operating. But that was very well done. And then from there, I went to Blue for coffee with the superintendent. That was very, very well done. I got to talk with Principal Naminsky about a number of different things that they're doing in community outreach and what Blue's trying to accomplish there, and some of the plans over the summer, and just kind of seeing what's going on there. So that was very good. Shout out to their PTO. They don't have a huge PTO over there, but almost every one of their members was at the meeting. And so that was very good to see them getting involved, and hopefully we can help them grow their PTO over there. From there, I was able to go, and this wasn't all in one day. This is just throughout the last couple of weeks. I was able to also go to West Star School Tour and Rainbow Valley. I'm trying to make this short because the meeting's getting a little bit long, but both very, very well done. Very good tours. Got to see a lot of what's going on in the classrooms and what the kids are learning. It was incredible to see the different methods of teaching going on within the classrooms. The teachers were always available to the students, especially the students that needed help. They were always surrounded by the students, engaged with the students. Didn't matter which class we went in. We saw different activities where they're working together as groups, and other activities where they're working individually. But everywhere I went, the kids were just so engaged. And that's good to see. I don't think I saw one kid kind of left out. That just everybody was doing something, learning, and so that was wonderful. And then this morning, got to go to Estrella Mountain for coffee with the principal this morning, and that was very good as well. They had quite a good turnout with their PTO as well. I'm not sure exactly how big their PTO is, but they had a number of people there, and just kind of talking with the principal and listening to what the community, are asking about what's going on. Most of them are concerned of what's happening over the summer, what they're going to come back to next year. So just good. It's really good for us as board members to be involved in these and to just kind of see what's going on and keep that finger on the pulse of the district. So, yeah.
Board Member Bixler.
Yeah, I had a baker's dozen of places to go to, so it was really pretty exciting over the last couple of weeks. Started out at Blue Horizons with their March Madness celebration, which was kind of exciting. I know this sounds like a repeat because I also went to Blue Horizons earlier. That was their primary grades. This one was their middle school. And the middle schoolers are, let's call it more energetic in their pie throwing. And I thought it was very clever of the administration in the building to assign the middle school a pie in the face task to the assistant principal as opposed to the principal. But they did get into it and they celebrated their success as well. Same kind of thing. Everybody was congratulating everybody else. It was really, really good. Went to the Estrella Mountain musical, Willy Wonka. Fantastic. Every production at Estrella Mountain is incredible, and this was no exception. I do have a special call out. I did really enjoy the performance of the student that played Willy Wonka. The child's name is Sean Fegerly, and just really carried the show. I mean, kept him moving and did an excellent job. But I've got to admit, my favorite, the person I thought who stole the show, was the role played for Veruca Salt, and that was played by Stella Bailey. And oh my gosh, if you talk about, I know what her career is going to be right now. I could see it. This child carried it. It was incredible. She really just stole the show for me. From there, I went to the Spring Carnival over at Las Brisas. Had a lot of fun. A lot of people going, different things going on and different contests to do and prizes to win. So very, very active over there. Again, went over to Las Brisas Academy for their celebration of their success. Had a great number of things going on. And again, it was a celebration of performance. And they really, really did a nice job of celebrating. It was great, especially for what they were celebrating for. From there, went to Liberty's National Junior Honor Society induction. And you're right, I have had an opportunity to see two of them now. And they are fairly similar, but they do carry the personality of the schools. And the president over at Liberty Elementary School, a young man by the name of Lane Campbell, I'll tell you what, he really did a good job of emceeing that whole production. And you could just see his leadership within the Junior Honor Society from what he did that day. Very special child over there. On to Blue Horizons again, coffee with the superintendent. Always enjoying the coffee because it's good. And I get to hear a lot of stuff that I don't normally hear. And so it was really good to go over there. Enjoyed it very much. Then went to the swearing in ceremony down at Steve Watson's office, which was a lot of fun too. It's always good. They've changed offices down there. Incredible view. I don't know who he knows, but boy, the view that office has is just amazing. Saw both Westar and Rainbow Valley as far as their campus tours. Very different campuses. It was, I don't want to say startling, but it was very recognizable, the difference of the personalities between the campuses. So it was really interesting to see that happen. Lots of good things going on both campuses. Then went over to the Estrella Mountain kinder first grade musical performance, their celebration. Yes. Again, if you ever get a chance to see something over at Estrella Mountain where the kids are performing, do it. The precision that's done with that, the orchestration, the way it sets up and moves, incredible work going into that. I know we have a retired military person. I'll tell you what, the teacher over there can really put together a program and things move like a clock. It is impressive how that operates over there. From there, went to the School Connect Champions of Education. Had a couple of people honored there. We did have 2 finalists. We had Monica, I can never say her last name, Landash, who was a finalist for the Hero Maker Award. And if you see how she works with the kids, you can see why she was a finalist for that. She makes lots of heroes. And then we had a student who was up for Champion of the Year, or Student Champion of the Year, and this is Aquila Ricks. So I want to congratulate both of those people and the honors they received as finalists there at that award ceremony. And then off to Rainbow Valley to see their recorder concert. And it was really good. 4th grade only, but they filled the stage. There was no place to stand. And to see the kids perform in the choir is good. There was about 6 different songs they performed. And clearly the last 2 were by far the most complicated songs to perform. And the kids did their best job on the last 2. So it looks like they're willing to step up to the challenge. So what I learned that day was push them because they'll meet it. They did a really good job with those recorders, and it's such a nice pathway into the rest of the band program. From there, went to the Estrella Mountain and had coffee with the principal. And again, good to hear all this going on, and there were lots of celebrations going on over at Estrella Mountain this morning. So busy couple weeks.
Board Member Cirencioni.
Well, going after Board Member Bixler is going to sound pretty pathetic. Didn't have many opportunities yet, just getting on board, but I did go to have coffee with the principal at Estrella today. It's a really good meeting. There was a couple of us there. It was nice. They had their 2 students who were principal for the day today, and so getting to talk to them, and I think it's because they raised the most money for the color run, correct? Yeah. So only limited opportunities for me so far, but there's a lot of opportunities coming up on the calendar. So looking forward to getting out there and see what's going on in the district. Thank you.
I heard some rumor you attended a swearing-in ceremony that Board Member Bix was at. Okay, perfect. Just making sure. I always get to bring up the last bit here. Blue Horizons March Madness Junior High was great. The Willy Wonka play, as Board Member Bixler says, that's always a spectacular performance. Anytime Miss Landash has her name on it, her kids are great. She's great in getting her kids to be great. The tour of Westar and Rainbow, both very unique campuses, definitely different personalities. But what I really liked at Rainbow is I saw students for the first time, I think, ever on a tour, actually working with pencil and paper. And I remember a board meeting a couple months ago, and the proverbial pucker factor went up when board docs went down, and we might be going to the old paper. This world has kind of forgotten the analog, the pen and paper. And they were writing some pretty extensive documents, all with pen and paper, pencil and paper. So it was exciting to see. I think that's still important for us as schools. So often the kids are just on the computers, which is the world we live in today, until that computer breaks, and then we're right back to pen and paper. So I was just really impressed by that. Sounds simple, pen and paper, but it was great. The spring carnival over at Las Brisas was fantastic. Great attendance. Really enjoyed it. Stopped by Blue Horizons one day for a baseball game. Stopped there another day for a softball game. Then made it over to Liberty School as well for a baseball game. So really was a pretty busy week. Snuck in a work trip to Indianapolis in the middle of that. So I apologize for missing your swearing in. I was about 5 o'clock Indianapolis time when they told me you were being sworn in. About 12 hours later, 15 hours later. So apologize for missing that, but welcome aboard and move on. Members, we're moving to 4.1, but I'd ask that we just take a 5-minute recess, give everybody a chance to reset, and we can settle in for the rest of this meeting. But we still got a little bit to go. So with that, I'm just going to recess for about 5 minutes, and we'll be back. At the time of 7:54, will show us back in general session. Our next item on the agenda is item 4.1, the approval of the consent agenda. Members, we did have a request from administration to pull 4.10. Are there any other requests? Okay, I would also like that we pull 4.11.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of 410 and pull 4.1.
That's 1.1.
I apologize. 4.11.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion is second to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 4.10 and 4.11. I call your name, please specify your vote. Board member, or correction, Vice President Parks.
Aye.
Board member Kenyon.
Aye.
Board member Bixler.
Aye.
Board member Cirincione.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Will show that approved. 5 yes, 0 no. 4.10, there's no discussion. You're just pulling that one, correct? Okay. On 4.11, I just looking these over. It looks like we have about a 30 between 30 and 35,000. I was trying to find it again. Payment to Melissa Holston, and I just wanted to confirm that that's going to be the last of payments to her. Is that correct?
Mrs. Camp, Mrs. Mosher, do you want to take that one?
That will not be the last payment. She is on contract with us until the end of June.
Okay. All right, members. If there's no other questions, we'll take a motion to approve 4.11.
Mr. President, I move that we accept item 411 as written.
We have a motion for 4.11. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. When I call your name, please specify your vote. Vice President Parks.
Aye.
Board member Kenyon.
Aye.
Board member Bixler.
Aye.
Board member Cirincione.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show that approved. 5 yes, 0 no. I will bring up some additional information in later on in the meeting. All right. All right, members, our next item on the agenda is 5.1, discussion consideration to accept the annual financial audit report for fiscal year 2022-2023. Dr. Monroe.
Yeah, President Todd, Vice President Parks, members of the board, as you heard about 30 minutes ago, our annual audit resulted in an unmodified opinion. The district continues to qualify as a low-risk auditee. School district governing boards must publicly accept all audits and compliance questionnaires by a roll call vote. So included in the board packet is the annual comprehensive financial report, the single audit reporting package and management letter, and the USFR questionnaire for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. Once the audit reports have been publicly accepted by the board, the reports will be made available on the district website for the public. Administration recommends that the board accept the annual financial audit report for fiscal year 22-23.
Okay, members, and just a reminder, this is just accepting it. It's not approving it. So we'd like to make a motion and a second.
Mr. President, motion to accept the annual financial audit report for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Mr. President, I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the fiscal year 2022-23 annual financial audit report. I call your name, please specify your vote. Vice President Parks.
Do we,
Aye.
I had a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, as far as the financial report, it did appear that in 22-23, that our general fund balance grew by $1 million. Is that correct? Is that what I read? Anybody know?
You know, I don't know, Crystal, if you have that information, I'd have to go back and look specifically, Member Bixler, on what you're asking to answer that question. I don't want to speak erroneously, just in
Oh,
case.
yeah, if I don't need to know right this second. This
Okay.
is a question I have because for me, the fund balance is kind of like a rainy day fund. You know, you keep it around, make sure nothing bad happens, you can pay for it, and so on. It seems like it grew in 23. And I was wondering if that amount would grow in 24 as well. But I need to know for sure if 23 was actually what I thought I saw.
All right. We'll get back to the board in a board update or make sure you get your answer.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll take the vote. Vice President Parks.
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon.
Aye.
Board Member Bixler.
Aye.
Board Member Cirincione.
Aye.
I'm also, I will show that proof. 5 yes, 0 no. Next up will be discussion consideration item 5.2 to approve benefits renewal for fiscal year 25. Dr. Mahorn. And it looks like Lisa Weston.
As Lisa Weston is getting her presentation set up, I just want to give some background that administration is recommending the approval of the employee health benefits for the fiscal year 25. District has an RFP for all health benefits for fiscal year 25 and some guiding principles in the decision making. Respond where possible to an employee survey data. We sent in a survey to all employees and included bus drivers, parapros, administrators, teachers, everyone. Minimize the overall financial impact to employees and the district through lower premiums and the cost of deductibles, copay amounts, out-of-pocket maximums, and co-insurance amounts. Operate within the annual budget allotment for the district. Maintain a variety of plans for employees to select from based on personal need and choice. And we are recommending for medical to renew with Meritain with a 2-year rate guarantee. For dental, this is new, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona with a 3-year rate guarantee. For vision, this is also new with Solstice, a 2-year rate guarantee with a 3rd year at 4% rate cap. For life and AD&D, this is Renew Minnesota Life with a 3-year rate guarantee. For EAP, Renew Alliance Work Partners will be free with Meritain Medical with a 2-year rate guarantee. Our HSA administration, Renew with Meritain, free guarantee. FSA administration, new with MetLife with a 3-year rate guarantee. Cobra, Renew, Meritain, free 2-year rate guarantee. And Teladoc, Renew with Meritain, free 2-year rate guarantee. And now Lisa Weston will do her presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Mahorn. Good evening. My name is Lisa Weston. I'm happy to be here again with Gallagher Benefit Services. I am your account executive with Gallagher and work with your leadership team and human resources, as well as your procurement team throughout the year on any sort of benefits related issues or questions. Now, we did have a very busy year this year when it came to marketing and renewals for your benefit plans. We marketed every single benefit that's in your benefit programs this year for Liberty. We had an underlying idea of the fact that we wanted to ensure that there was either reduction or limited cost increases. We wanted to determine or make sure we negotiated multiple year rate guarantees. We wanted to have improved benefit plan designs, and that was going to be as a result of what your employees said in that annual survey, that they wanted to have increased benefit options. That, as well as maintained or increased provider network access. So we essentially marketed every single benefit plan now in partnership with your procurement office, as well as your HR team. All benefit proposals were reviewed, and they were thoroughly scored based upon how they met the needs of the district, whether it be not just upon pricing, but all of these other requirements that I just listed to you a moment ago. So as we're presenting this, the plans that are being presented were determined to be the best fit based upon that review by your procurement as well as your HR team. Now, before I dive into the actual renewal discussion, I do want to point out that when you're looking at your medical every year, the main thing to keep in mind is how your medical plan is reviewed and that medical renewal is provided from ASBATE Meritain. And really what goes into that is how your plan is being utilized by your employees. And I know over the last couple of years, we've been in a situation, we've had excessive renewals. So just as a reminder, last year was 10%. The year before that was 10.1. The year before that was 12%. We've had some really rough renewals because you had very high claims experience in your medical plan. So I just want to show you on the screen of what you're looking at here. The rolling 12 cost to budget ratio is 103.2% for all plans combined. So what does that mean? Putting that in perspective, when your premium is determined by your medical carrier, they figure about 85% of it's going to go towards claims. The other 15% is going to go towards administrative costs. So being at 103%, not only have you eaten all the amount up for claims, but also the administrative costs, which then can negatively impact what your renewal rates are going to be for the upcoming year. Now, we did have 8 claimants over $65,000. That represented about 38.5% of total gross claims. I know that there's very little that we can do to try to negate people using their plans or having those high cost claimants, but it's really how we respond to how people are using their plans. Now, the good news is this current plan year, and in that plan year beginning of July of 2023 through current, the plan did stabilize and did find a healthy norm in the fact that you're at 84.3%, all plans combined. But that's only for 6 months. Unfortunately, when you look at your renewal, they do look at a full 12 months of rolling claims. But the good news is we have seen a trending in the right direction, which is fantastic news. Now, I do want to point out when you're looking at the screen, performance by plan. Your Classic Gold, it is running at 180.6% loss ratio, and that plan only has 44 enrollees. So the negative to that is you have a small portion of your population that is negatively impacting the entire district and every other employee who's enrolled in medical, because when the medical renewal comes down the pike, of course, it's going to consider an overall loss ratio. And when you have one plan that is so tilted with a high claims experience, you're going to see a higher increase come down overall. Whereas your Value Silver plan is only running at 75.9 with 142 enrollees, and your High Deductible Health plan is running at 52.6% with 128 enrollees. So one of the things we talked about was, how do we mitigate this loss? What is it that we can do to try to keep these rates within where they should be? And what is it that we can do to kind of essentially stop the bleeding? Because 180% loss ratio is something that we cannot sustain. And certainly the district can't either. So one of the things that we're proposing as a mitigation strategy is to grandfather the Classic Gold plan to your current enrollees only. So we're not causing any harm to employees who are currently enrolled in the plan. They get to keep it. But what we're saying is, if you leave that plan, you can't come back to it. And if you're a new hire or currently not enrolled in that plan, you cannot elect that plan. So we're just simply closing the doors to anybody else joining it, but we're not causing any harm to anybody who's currently on it. The other option that we're also presenting is an option to offer an additional high deductible health plan. So what this does is it still maintains 3 active plans that employees can select from. While there's still a grandfathered plan, a 4th plan that's sitting out there, it's being offered, but not one that somebody can select if you're not currently in it. Okay. So I want to kind of present overall kind of the financial impact. And I know this is an awful lot of data that we're looking at here. So there's 9 benefit programs that are listed on this slide. These are things that have some sort of cost to the district. The good news is, of the 9, there's only 3 of them that have new vendors. The remaining plans all either have a cost reduction associated with it, but they all essentially do have a multi-year rate guarantee. So I have to say that the marketing task that we completed was in such a huge benefit to the district. As you're able to see here in the plus and minus column, which is the second column from the right, exactly what the percentage and dollar savings or cost would be to the district for the plans. If you look at the very, very bottom, you're able to see that there is a differential of $183,869, or overall 4.72%, when you take all of these district offered benefits and combine them together as far as the overall financial impact to the district. So our goal was to make sure, again, least amount of impact to the employees and least amount cost to the district as we're considering these plans for this up and coming year. Okay, so diving into your plans. Now I do want to mention regarding your medical, it did come out as an initial 9.1% above current. Meritain did present a best and final of 6.1%, or about $216,972 above current. That results of that the negotiations did save Liberty about $108,060. The best part of that medical renewal is that it's a 2-year rate guarantee. 2-year rate guarantees are very, very rare. It's something that we don't see often at all. And I do want to mention, I do have Sherry Stevens from Meritain here to answer questions later regarding that renewal process. But essentially what that 2-year rate guarantee means is next year, no rate increase on your medical plans, which is absolutely phenomenal. So it's helping to budget for the up and coming year. Yes, you do have a 6.1 overall this year, but we are locked in for one more year. Employees, again, still continuing to have 4 plans. There is one adjustment to the deductible increase, which is mandated by the IRS for your high deductible health plan A. We're also introducing high deductible health plan C. The idea between offering that new health plan is that it does provide the lowest premium costs. Yes, it does have a higher cost at the time of services, but employees also are receiving that contribution via the HSA from the district to help offset those out-of-pocket costs. Now, the best news of all this is there's no change to the network. Employees get to use the same doctors and facilities regardless of what plans that we're offering within that Meritain. Now, as far as your renewal retiree plan, it did have a renewal of 5.1%, and you're still going to continue to have that value gold plan offered to retirees. Now, this slide I'm showing you is just simply a comparison of the 4 plans that we're offering in place. The high deductible health plan A, which is on the far left, is a current plan being offered. What you're able to see here is a direct correlation between your current rates and what the new 2024 rates are. I do want to mention, as you're looking down at the bottom of the screen, you're able to see really what the out-of-pocket costs are in relation to deductible, out-of-pocket maximum, and co-insurance. So you're able to see kind of essentially how those plans are functioning. When you're looking at the high deductible health plan C for the new rates, you're actually able to see that they're very comparable, if not just a tiny bit less than current year rates for high deductible health plan A. So if people are currently happy with utilizing a high deductible health plan, they don't want to see any sort of impact in rates coming out of there as far as premiums. If they move from A to C, they're going to see no cost impact to them regarding what they're paying out of pocket. Okay. Now, in regard to your contributions, Liberty, it's proposed that Liberty increase current contributions from $680 a month to $726 a month for an overall increase of 6.8%. This means that high deductible health plan A participants will have no increase to employee-only rates. Employees that select the high deductible health plan with dependents, those employees are provided the additional district contribution above what the premium is for that plan in order to select or help to reduce the other tiers of coverage. Employees in Value Silver, again, no increase to the employee-only rates. And then the Classic Gold Buy-Up Plan, they'll incur a $9 increase to the employee-only rates. It's also recommended that Liberty provide a contribution of $34.65 a month towards a PPO dental plan. Liberty provide contribution of $3.83 toward the vision enrollment. And as far as the HSA contribution, it's recommended to maintain that same contribution limit that you currently are providing of $750 annually, with that contribution being $375 provided on July 1st, and then another $375 provided on January 1st. We highly recommend giving that contribution in 2 separate phases. Number one, essentially, because there are individuals that may not be here the entire year. You're limiting your exposure for handing over that money and then, of course, replacing that position and then having to refill those funds. It's also ensures that employees are have funds available at the beginning of the school year and then again at the beginning of the deductible year when it resets on January 1st. Now, I do want to mention that Stephanie had mentioned there's a number of benefits that are included with your ASBATE medical. That's including your employee assistance program, your HSA administration, COBRA, and telemedicine. These are all value-added programs. Now, because of the marketing process, we did include them in the RFP. So I'm able actually to show you on the screen how much your district is saving annually for each one of these services because you're taking advantage of it through ASBATE Meritain. Now, there's only one that was provided from the Gallagher Book of Business, but everything else was a cost saving that was directly related to a quote that we received in the RFP process. Okay. Regarding the PPO dental plan, we're excited to move to Blue Cross Blue Shield at 7.8% below current. There is a 3-year rate guarantee. Employees have increased benefits here because of that wait. There was a waiting period previously for major services and ortho services that they no longer have. Also, the network increased because they're currently an 86% match on providers with MetLife. They're going to go up to 98% with Blue Cross. So it's really, I think your employees are going to love the dental plan. Your vision plan, it did have an increase this year, Solstice at 9%. However, there are some benefits with it with decreased copay for progressives, increased frame allowance. Also, the network provider match is 97%. Employees did speak very highly in that survey about how unhappy they were with the vision plan. So I think we felt that by providing a plan that was a little more rich, well, and the cost on vision is typically very small, but by providing a more rich one, providing a plan that has a very robust network, that we were going to offset some of those complaints or uneasiness with your current vision plan. Minnesota Life is your current life provider. They came in at 35.3% below current with a 3-year rate guarantee, with the district continuing to offer 2 times your annual earnings to a max of $150,000 for Class 1 and Class 2 employees. Also, your voluntary life remaining with Minnesota Life as well. Good news is no adjustments to plans or rates. Everything stays exactly the same. Flexible spending account, we actually did not have a vendor that was going to be able to renew with us, so we did find a new vendor. We're moving to MetLife at 16.9% below current with the 3-year rate guarantee. They also included a whole bunch of services that your current FSA vendor did not provide, including non-discrimination testing, provision of the SPD, all things that were costing money previously that are now included with the FSA. We also recommend a continued $250 annual minimum contribution limit. The reason we do that is sometimes when employees are completing their enrollment in the FSA, they'll put in $2 a month and they get down to the end of the year and it's like they've taken $18. And so for the amount of money that's being paid in administration costs, it's a recommendation that if somebody does take advantage of it, that they do a minimum of $250 contribution. Also moving voluntary short-term disability, moving that to Lincoln. Now, I'm excited about this because Lincoln does have a higher increased short-term disability benefit up to $2,500 a week. Previously was only $1,000 a week. There's a guarantee issue at initial as well as subsequent enrollment periods, so somebody can get it any time. It also includes full maternity benefits and benefits that weren't previously available, including waiver of premium and portability. Now, there was a bit of an increase to the rates, but the increase in rates was essentially offset by the increase in the benefits. And then lastly, your accident, critical illness, hospital indemnity, all moving to Lincoln with an overall increase to benefits and decrease in costs, as well as wellness benefits being included on all products, which means if somebody goes out and gets a preventive care visit, by simply submitting paperwork that they got that, they're going to get paid for every single policy. They'll get paid $50 for every policy that they take advantage of. So it does help to alleviate the burden of paying premiums on a policy that you're not using frequently. So that's actually the end of my presentation. Does you have any questions?
Vice President Parks.
No questions, not now.
Board Member Kenyon.
Oh, there's a lot of information there. I've always been very happy with how the district has looked at, getting the best benefits possible for our staff. And even before as a board member, I was just thrilled that this administration, working with Gallagher, is really able to provide these. The rate guarantees, those are incredible, especially seeing how much the plans are being used and that kind of stuff. My question about that, though, is it's a rate guarantee that it won't go up. If we find that we can get a better deal in a year, are we locked at a 2 or 3 year rate guarantee? Can we bring it down during those 2 or 3 years? Or are we stuck right there?
Are you referring to any plan or just medical in particular?
Any plan.
Any plan. So generally, I can speak specifically for any non-medical plan. Essentially, they're not reviewed. You're locked in. They will not review claims experience. Essentially, they say we're not going to make any sort of plan changes. The certificates that are released by those vendors are generally locking in because there's some legislation changes that do occur that may require a change or increase in costs. But the good news is you're essentially immune from that. So and while you'd like to see some sort of increase in the future, the good news is you're not having the possibility of having an increase due to a legislative change. As for medical, I would actually defer to have Maritane come and answer that question on the medical side.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question. Yes, we have new actuaries over at ASBATE who this is new territory that we're delving into with rate guarantees, and so it will be a locked situation, but let's see how things progress. Obviously open to discussions, but that's the steps going forward, that we'll have a 2-year.
Thank you. My concern was, coming out of the COVID pandemic and stuff, there was obviously everybody was using all their benefits as much as possible, and we're seeing that hopefully taper down. If we lock at a rate here and we're tapering down how much we're using it for the next 2 or 3 years, we're still stuck at that rate. I mean, like you said, the benefit is it's not going to go up, right? So that's something that we as a board will have to consider.
And I think it's good to look at it in the inflationary sense of things too. Just what we're seeing, all over the place with expenses, that you've got this, firm buffer in place. So I like this strategy that's moving forward with ASBATE and the actuaries. I think it's very beneficial to the school district. So
yeah, I think it's very beneficial that we know where we stand for the next couple of years. Right. So,
exactly.
very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Board Member Bixler.
Yeah, you guys have always done some really amazing magic at this time of year, so I do appreciate this one's the same. If I understood correctly, what you're suggesting is that there will be an increase, but not the percentage increase that we've seen over the last 2 years. It's actually a lower increase. Is that a correct understanding?
So your increase this year for your medical was much decreased from where it was last 3 years. Remember, at 10%, 10%, and 12%. So which is amazing. But next year you'll have no increase in everything that has a rate guarantee. You are locked in for no plan, benefit, or rate changes on any benefit that I showed you on your screen. I can go back here, but no changes. You're not going to be going up until those rate guarantees expire.
And you've also got some additional benefits that are being added just because we changed and just by luck. So that's great. The grandfathering of the Classic Gold, I don't suppose there's any incentive we could put in place to move those 44 people from the Classic Gold into the Silver?
Well, the incentive essentially is the fact that they're paying a higher premium. If they move off of it, then they're going to save on the premium costs. Additionally, they're still going to have the same network available to them. You really can't penalize them, right, for having a plan. But really the win for them is going to be the cost savings, whether it be between your Value Silver or either one of your high deductible health plans. It's going to be so much less out of pocket when they're paying their medical premiums. But I think people look at it a balance like this. They have a very rich plan in that gold plan, and the fact that they're not paying much at the time of services, they're willing to offset that by paying more coming out of their
per month.
paycheck.
Yeah.
but on the high deductible, you guys giving away that $750 a year is a tremendous gift and a huge incentive. It's very, very generous. Not a lot of employers are giving that kind of an incentive, which our goal has been to educate, and I know your HR team is going to be going from site to site to educate and include employees in those conversations to let them know, hey, don't forget you have these amazing benefits here. But I think it really comes down to comfort level. People hear the term high deductible health plan, they get very scared. The whole term, why do I want to buy into something that's called a high deductible?
If I was real healthy, I would.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with the grandfathering. I think it's a good idea. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Again, magic.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Board
No
member.
questions.
Thank you for your presentation. I can't help but think this year we got pretty aggressive with an RFP and pushing this out. This board has pushed over the last 3 years, I know, to look at benefits and get better. I still think we can get better than this, but this is what we have this year. So I'm not really opposed to the rate lock. I've never heard of an insurance company lowering rates. That just seems to be like their number one corporate rule is not to lower rates. And with our percentage this high, with just the increases coming up, most every business is still in a recovery mode over the last couple of years. And so rates are still climbing over the next 3 years to pay off the last 3 years. So I'm not worried about that. I like the rate deduction. It's unfortunate we had the little debacle with Blue Cross earlier because that sounded really good, and staff kind of let me know about that. I'm a little disappointed we got that far with them, but I think it's important with our Value Gold members that we meet one-on-one with them and really show them what the benefit is. I typically find those people are, well, just by the numbers, are the high users, so they're scared, and insurance is scary, and the idea of having a big catastrophic medical is concerning. Year by year, the insurance companies have gotten better of explaining that and kind of showing the risk isn't what everybody thinks it is quite as much. But I think, I think it's important that we engage your services as well. And nothing against our HR department, but they're not insurance experts as a whole, and we really need to kind of do a customized plan. This is what you cost last year, your insurance cost. This was the expenditure. Here's how you can do this, and really show them, because it is scary. But I am happy that we got a lot of extra benefits as well that we haven't had in the past. I think the telemedicine is new. Obviously vision, we heard about that all the time, like why even have the vision? It just was not very good. So although there is just a minor increase in cost, not near what some places are seeing, and I'm appreciative of that. So before we make a decision on the Value Gold, I think we really need to have a talk with these folks and make sure they understand what's happening, because it can be concerning, and at some point somebody could say I'm out, like if they're that scared. So we don't want to lose those 44 employees because they think there's better benefits next door. But
the good news is,
that quick.
I apologize. The good news is they're not losing it. So we're just going to not let new people join. Right. The good news is they're maintaining it if they'd like to maintain it.
Sure. But there may be people this year that are thinking about joining that because of past,
right.
This year's stuff. And we are still kind of coming out of the pandemic world. People still have some increased medical bills. I can't name a single thing that has gone down in price. Most things have gone up 200, 300%. So to see these rates, I am happy. I want the employees to know that we are going to continue to fight to make sure we have the best benefits package. It's kind of a dream of mine that everybody wants to come work for us just because of our benefits package. It's critical. One thing we didn't cover a lot, but is crucial to me is all the preventative maintenance, the well woman checks, diabetic care, some of those things. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I want to make sure that we're taking care. We just, not to sound wrong, but in the education world, we have a high percentage of ladies, and they need to make sure they have the best of care for the things that they need. So.
Absolutely. All of your plans are ACA compliant. They all include full coverage for preventative care services. So absolutely, mammograms, well woman visits, well child visits, immunizations, male prostate exams. Those are all included and covered by the plan. So absolutely, and you know, there's not an adverse reaction to how your plan performs if people are getting those preventative care visits. I actually used to be a wellness consultant, and I know that there's a direct correlation between people getting preventative care visits and long-term lower impact on overall plan expenditures if people are catching those things early. You do have a very robust wellness program, and one that's continuing to grow and being offered through Meritain, that it has a preventative care focus to it. And incentivizing employees for taking care of their health and preventative care. But absolutely, we have a number of resources and things that we've been promoting to your our HR team to communicate out to the staff. And any things we can include in the wellness newsletter, or excuse me, your monthly newsletter, to educate and let people know that you're not going to be hit with a huge cost by going and getting those preventative care visits. But absolutely, cornerstone of your plans is to make sure that preventative care is included.
Well, first and foremost, it saves people, makes their health better with preventative. Secondly, and I do mean secondarily, it helps our benefit cost go down or maintain. But first of all, we want our people here. We want to see them year after year, and we don't want the bad stuff that can come about. So, all right, thank you. Members, if there's no other questions, I'll take a motion to approve the employee health benefits for fiscal year 25.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve employee health benefits for year 2025.
Have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the health benefits for fiscal year 25. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no one, I call your name. Please specify your vote. Vice President Parks?
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon?
Aye.
Board Member Bixler?
Aye.
Board Member Lorencione?
Aye.
Killing me. And I'm also an aye. We'll show that proof. 5 yes, 0 no. Next up will be item 5.3, approval of fiscal year 25 support staff work agreement issuance. Dr. Mahorn.
Yes, administration is recommending that the governing board approve the issuance of the fiscal year 25 support staff work agreement as presented. And the work agreement list is attached.
Members, any discussion? Otherwise, I'll take a motion.
I'm just happy to see so many people ready and willing to come back next year. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the issuance of the fiscal year 25 support staff work agreements as presented.
Do I have a second?
Mr. President, I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the fiscal year 25 support staff work agreements. If there's any discussion, please speak up. Otherwise, we'll go for a vote to Vice President Parks.
Aye. Aye.
All right. Board Member Kenyon.
Aye.
Board Member Bixler.
Aye.
Board Member Lorencione.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show that proof. 5 yes, 0 no. Next on our agenda is item 5.4, first read and discussion of policy BEDD, rules of order. Dr. Monroe.
President Todd, Vice President Parks, members of the board, the purpose of bringing this policy forward to the board, this policy revision, is to clarify some of our rules of order, which in the policy aren't super robust, and help our board meetings be more efficient. These have been legally reviewed. There is no vote required tonight. This is simply a first read for questions and discussions. I'll call the board's attention to the attachment that's black lined, and you'll also see some of the legal language that was added in red. On item B, the language added is the board president will propose discussion with the board and staff before asking for a motion and second on an action item. That's what we currently do. However, it's not written overtly in the policy. D, board members who wish to explain their vote on a particular item shall request time to do so from the board president after the vote of all members has been recorded. So that's a big clarification for us. E, we got rid of some of that language and simply put the president may adjourn or recess the meeting at any time without a motion, similar to what we did tonight, which was lawful and legal what we did according to policy. And then down below, letter H was to, in an effort to make our board meetings more efficient, individual governing board reports will be limited to no more than 3 minutes per board member. 3 minutes is actually a fairly long time. With 5 board members, that is 15 minutes max. When there's not a max, sometimes that 15 minutes can turn into a lot longer. So again, this is just for first read and discussion that we can talk about. It would be brought back to another board meeting, probably the next board meeting, for approval, if the board so wished it to be.
Members, any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, I do have a couple things. I don't agree with the changes in item E. I think it just stays the way it is, and we don't add any new language to item E. The second thing I don't agree with is the item H. I think it should not be blacklined out. I think recessing is all we need to do. I think that giving the board president the power to adjourn the meeting is too much power. If they want to recess it, that's a whole different story. If we want to adjourn the meeting, I think it takes more than one board member to do it.
Okay, so just in speaking with legal, E actually under Robert's rules is very specific, following that the president should adjourn. It does not require a motion. That's why we adopted that, or we that was proposed to be adopted.
And Aaron, maybe you can comment on that. I know that the law has changed with regards to that and to what President Todd is talking about adjourning a meeting without a vote, because I know that came up in COVID with safety issues and threats to boards and things like that. Is that something that you're really familiar with? When we were talking to Clyde about that, he was trying to help us understand that better. Yeah, hold down. There you go.
Dr. Monroe, it's my members of the board, it's my understanding that that's permissible and it's a board decision on the direction they want to go in terms of how they want to approach that.
Board Member Bixler, what was the other one you had requested discussion on?
The two things I said were to leave item E as it stands, to not change it at all. Don't put any new language into it. And the other was to keep item H. Don't do the black line and don't put in the new verbiage.
So you're saying to leave item H but not add the red line H, or just leave H?
Not add the red line H.
Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I've reviewed this over extensively and referred to statute, and it actually follows statute quite clearly, along with Robert's rules. I'm in full support of this.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, hearing none, bring this back at the next meeting for a second read and approval. We can discuss the changes at that point again, and then we'll make the motion.
Got it.
Okay, next up will be item 5.5, discussion consideration to discontinue contracted grounds and hire in-house staff. Mr. Bob Young.
Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, we're recommending that we discontinue the contracted ground services that we are currently using at the end of June 30th when the contract runs out, the PO is out. And recommending we do not give them a new PO. We hire 4 grounds crew workers, raise the salary schedule for groundskeepers per HR did a study of the surrounding districts, what their salary ranges are, and change the lead grounds to exempt level since he will be supervising the new 4 if that's approved.
Members, any discussion or questions?
Yeah, Mr. President, I do have a question. Mr. Young, as far as this change, is it are we saving money and getting better quality service, or are we just getting better quality service, or are we saving money?
It's a, Mr. President, Mr. Board Member Bixler, it's a savings to the district. It's over $100,000 a year savings by what we currently are paying. And my thought is contracted grounds are here to make money, and district grounds are here to make the school safe and looking good for the students. So it's a big difference. When we're saving money, the first year we need to buy some equipment because we haven't had a grounds crew here for 2-3 years, whatever it is, and the equipment that is here has been sitting and deteriorating out in the sun. So we'll need to get the weed service, things like that will still need to be added to it. Eventually I would hope that we get somebody certified in-house to spray the weeds and do that in-house once we get up and running and get things moving the way it would. But I think with the one person that we hired recently, we've seen a big difference in what we've already had in the grounds work. He's been taking care of the ball fields, and we've got a lot of compliments from the schools at how good the fields are starting to look. So
Right, and that's one of my concerns is that we're starting to see some improvements in our exterior areas that we hadn't seen before, and I hate to lose that opportunity. And we're pretty confident that the people that we have in place currently are adequate number-wise as far as staff to cover our needs, and skill-wise, they've got the experience and knowledge that we need to have for those people, right?
what we will be interviewing and looking for to hire, yes, we will.
All right, yeah, it's interesting how this is always something we talk about quite a bit. So.
Yeah, I would just say I consider it a win-win. Bob's been working on this plan for a long time, so not only do you save money, but we get a better product, and our schools look better and they're safer. And I think in rubbing shoulders with each one of you board members, probably at one point or another the last few months, I've heard compliments about how our schools and our grounds are looking pretty sharp, and I think our principals would attest to this. So Bob's plan moving forward really continues that. Member Bixler, it doesn't take that away, but it gives us some legs so we can save money, buy some of our own equipment, and then have our own guys, our own crew, so they can feel ownership and pride as opposed to a third party company coming in to do it, which sometimes can be a challenge.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a motion in a second.
Mr. President, motion to approve discontinuing contract ground service, hire for grounds crew workers, raise the salary schedule for groundkeeper, and change the lead grounds to exempt level.
Motion, have a second.
I'll second.
Right, have a motion, a second. If there's no further discussion, we'll go for a vote. Any more discussion? Hearing none. Call the vote. Vice President Parks.
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon.
Aye.
Board Member Bixler.
Aye.
Board Member Cirincione.
Aye.
I'm also, I will show that proof 5 yes, 0 no.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is 5.6, discussion consideration to approve.
We pulled that one.
Actually, we did pull the first part. Did we pull this one?
Yeah, we did. We pulled both, I believe.
5.7, discussion consideration to approve the teacher induction mentor job description. Ms. Natasha Camp.
Good evening, Mr. President, Vice President Parks, board members. As you are aware in the board updates recently, we were awarded another grant, which is always very exciting. With that grant, the ADE Professional Development and Support Personnel Pilot Program grant, we were able to write a job description for the teacher induction mentor. And so in front of you, you will see that job description. And then just wanted you to be aware that that job description will fall on the instructional coach salary schedule with your approval tonight.
Members, any discussion, questions?
Mr. President, this is a one-year grant. I want to make sure that that is made very clear, and it's not renewable at this point. it may become renewable, but it's not at this point. We need to make sure that that is evident in the contract, make sure that they know this is 1 year. There is no guarantees on this. I'm not going to have this come back on us again. So just as long as that's clear. So thank you.
Okay, can we do that in the contract language and make sure that's in there as we offer? Okay.
I do believe that's also why in parentheses you will see next to the title it says grant funded. So their contract would have similar language to that to only be for the fiscal year that the grant was awarded, which is in the executive summary stating for the year 24-25 academic year only at this time.
I would just like to go along with that, make sure we have that initialed separately. We had some definite proposed or apparent miscues on the behavioral positions that were all offered that were grant funded 100% of the time. There's some staff that says they're not aware, so it needs to be initialed and very, very clear in maybe 10 or 12 places that they initial and know, maybe 200 places, maybe every line, so we don't run into that again. That's just in fairness to the person that applies for that position.
We will work with HR to make sure that that is done correctly.
Thank you. Hearing no further discussion, I'll take a motion in a second.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the teacher induction mentor job description and placement on the instructional coach salary schedule for only the 24-25 school year.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Vice President Parks, was that you?
Aye.
Okay. No, were you the second?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
second. Sorry.
All right. It's good. It's sometimes hard to hear over here.
Yes.
All right. Hearing that, no further discussion. We'll take the vote. Vice President Parks.
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon.
Aye.
Board Member Bixler.
Aye.
Board Member Cirincione.
Aye.
I'm also, and I will show that proof 5 yes, 0 no. Next up, item 6.1, public comment. Do we have any comment?
Mr. President, there are no calls to the public today.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move to item 7, governing board comments on agenda topics, recommend agenda topics. Staff, I'd like to have an executive session at a minimum at the next meeting to discuss the discontinuance of Ms. Holston's contract for cause or whatever we need to do to end that before June. That would be the only request I have.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I do have a couple things I'd like for us to look at. The first is I'd like for us to put into place, or at least take a look at, establishing a model where we have a collaborative relationship with our feeder high schools so we can talk directly to them about the preparation of our kids. Are there things that we could be doing better that they need to have us do up there? I'd like for us to find a model that will continue that conversation so that we can definitely be a service industry for the high schools. Second thing I'd like for us to take a look at is establishing a district-sponsored annual checkup through our health service, through our medical coverage, so that all of our employees would have the opportunity once a year to get a fairly good annual checkup, including things like eye exams, hearing exams, blood pressure checks, and some limited blood work. I have seen this happen in other districts where it has literally saved people's lives.
Okay. Staff, do you want to work on something that might be covered with all of our new benefits? But
Yeah, I've written notes on all 3 of those. Yeah, 4 of those.
thank you. Anything else for future agenda topics? All right, hearing none, a review of our upcoming board meetings. We've got Monday, May 13th is a regular meeting. Monday, June 10th meeting is canceled due to the ASA summer conference where all staff will be at. We have a work session scheduled for June 17th. We have a board meeting on June 24th. We have another regular board meeting on July 10th, and we have another one on July 31st. Any concerns with those dates?
Mr. President, as of this moment, I will be out of town for the June 17th and June 24th meetings. I'll try to call in or see what the reception or connectivity is going to be at.
On the high seas.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck,
Yes.
but we appreciate you trying. Okay, hearing nothing else, we'll move to 9.1, the adjournment of the meeting.
Mr. President, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Mr. President, I second.
A motion, a second to adjourn the meeting. I'm guessing there's no discussion. We'll move straight to Vice President Parks.
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon.
Aye.
Board Member Bixler.
Aye.
Board Member Cirencioni.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Will show that proof 5 yes, 0 no. The meeting is adjourned at 8:50.